The following video contains content some viewers might find disturbing. The views and opinions expressed here are not facts and are nothing more than entertainment. The views and opinions are not facts and do not represent the views and opinions of XIRTUS or our channel, and do not necessarily represent or reflect the views of the guests, YouTube, Google, mainstream media, society, or civilization at large, or anybody. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey, look at it.
You baited me with Brazilian UFO.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I felt like that was reasonable. Ping Trip's also with us. How's it going, Mark? Good to see you.
What's up?
And yeah, Bernie's driving by through Canada, which is, clearly the center of all conspiracies.
Canada.
Look at it. Look at it.
Beautiful. Safe travels. Safe driving.
Basically Russia. So, and then Doug's with us. How you doing, Doug? Good to see you.
It's a pleasure to be with you all. Hello, chat. Hello, all. Happy Wednesday, Ultra.
Beautiful man with the beautiful shirt. And then also in a shirt it's pretty fantastic as well. I got to admit the space leopard look is fly. How's it going, Seth?
It's going great, man. And yeah, I identify now as a space leopard. And let me make up pronouns real quick. They will be my and buddy, my buddy. a space leopard.
Buddy space leopard. Okay. I just wanted to open with like something light before we get into the abduction. What about the woman indicted in $11,000 sale of stolen body parts through an oddities Facebook group? Did you see
How
this?
much? Well, how much is $11 in body parts? What kind of body parts? Like, I mean, that could be like
11,000.
kidney. That
No,
could be
Barbie parts, not body
What could
parts. For
Thank
$11.
you.
At a morgue or something?
$11,000 for body parts.
Who are the two people in the pictures? Which one is the
Candace Chapman Scott, accused of stealing stolen body parts to Jeremy Lee Pauly. So she
what does he do with them? Like attach him to his own body. It looks
Dang, bro. Yeah, he looks transhuman in like the wrong way. Scott, a Little Rock resident, pleaded not guilty to 12 counts, including conspiracy to commit mail fraud twice, conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Oh yeah, conspiracy, yeah. Conspiracy to commit interstate transportation. So it's weird how you can have the thought crime be its own crime for here, but I digress. Jailed. I feel like he's probably going to be able to defend himself. It looks like that. Like, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe that's just all looks. But where's the body parts? What was it he stole? Fetuses, brains, hearts, lungs, genitalia. We're 6 minutes in, right? We're deep enough. Large pieces of skin and other body parts. At one point, the indictment alleged Scott sold the remains of a fetus at a discount, writing he's not in great shape. Indictment alleges. Sorry?
Was she stealing them from like a Planned Parenthood or from a laboratory or something? Or where was she getting fetus parts?
They were going to a school. They were like
hopefully not the factory herself, or maybe hopefully the factory herself. That's debatable.
Yeah, where's the closest pizza place on the map? I don't know, but prosecutors argue that Scott should remain in jail until trial. Diamond Church collected $10,975 in 16 separate PayPal transfers. Okay, 16 transfers for different things, probably.
what was he going to do with the body parts? That's the question.
Wait, isn't he just a middleman? Isn't he selling them or something? Or is he really using them? Is that what it's supposing?
He probably worships Satan. That'd be my
There's
guess.
only one or two things you can use baby parts for. That's like extracting the juices, like adrenochrome or whatever. Or, I don't know, just like eating it or something carnal. I mean, what the heck usage does it have? I guess if you're an artist or like glue them together and make a sculpture or something.
Probably something satanic. Dude looks like a Satanist.
Were they from Boston?
So these are things that were donated for medical research, and then he stole them from medical research. Is that what it looks like is going on?
No, I think they were going to a school for medical school so that they can learn.
That guy is a medical student?
No.
Okay.
The woman worked at the school.
Oh, okay. Got it.
20 boxes of you scroll down. It explains it right there at the top. Stolen body parts from medical school cadavers to a Pennsylvania man. So yeah, they're for school. They're going to learn on them.
Brad W has the best comment in the chat. He says, baby powder, duh. How do you think you make baby powder?
Well, I don't know. Any thoughts on this? Like, so what's going on? Like, people are
probably going to do some sick stuff.
I mean, it seems pretty crazy to me, but is this as common as it looks like it is also? Because when you start to look into
harvesting body parts, though, like, isn't that an ongoing thing from forever?
I don't know about body parts. I think it's mostly like the juices they're interested, isn't it? I mean, what are they doing with just random body parts? I think they like living children and they like the juices thereof, but I don't know what need they have for
having sexual relations with them.
And if they needed dead kids, I'm sure they have their own, or they probably throw them in the ocean or something. But after you throw away that many dead kids, why would you be buying the parts? I don't know.
Yeah, it seems interesting that there's like this many. It seems like this is not. I mean, unless when you see it and it looks like that, is he doing it all the time, or is this just somebody who tried it like a one-off? And it's part of this organized crime syndicate that's been going on for decades, where we're seeing human body parts traffic. But in the United States, it's usually smaller than it is in like East Asia. So,
and sorry, I quickly wanted to say a shout out to Ping Trip. Yesterday, your video on Tuckerson leaks was absolutely great.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, but if it's for medical research, it's probably not, for body transplant quality. That's also what I'm thinking. So
and it's probably not the freshest either if you're going to try to cook up a steak or something,
Yeah. Pretty horrible. All right.
I mean, we need to know which body parts he purchased, and then we could make a more educated guess as to what he was going to do.
Right. Like, is it a family bucket of all pineal glands, or is it just like arms and legs and stuff? Makes a difference.
Well, he was saying, he had fetuses and an assortment of things. Where was it again? I forget.
They didn't say he bought the whole body. He bought parts.
But then it did say fetuses.
Yeah, they said from cadavers, but
it's probably written by an AI or just
fetuses, brains, hearts, lungs, genitalia, large pieces of skin.
Genitalia, hearts and lungs. I mean, who knows what this sick freak was into? He might have been into heart play, sticking your wiener in.
Yeah, it sounds like mostly sick freak stuff to me. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's like part of like a big like a mafia operation or something.
Anyone collecting body parts, probably a sick freak. Sorry to interrupt. Love you guys. I'll probably rejoin in a little bit. Just pulling up to my mom's. Got to help her move. Let me multi-stream. Much love, guys.
Much love to your mom.
So there's got to be like something less sick to talk about, but it does remind me of Real American News.
It reminds me
way
a lot
to
of
start the show on a fun note. That was fun.
Yeah, that was Andreas.
I was hoping someone had like some weird place to take it.
Well, it reminds me a lot of the In Pursuit of Truth. Do you guys know who that is? He was a YouTube guy, conspiracy theorist guy, but he was a voice actor by trade and video editor. So his videos were full of humor and nuance and like nice touches and stuff. Yeah, he was a voice actor like you. So he sounded great. The videos were great. He edited in funny little clips and stuff, and it was a really nice finished product. And he also did a ton of research and information on just everything that he got caught a whiff of. And one of the things was about Planned Parenthoods all being located next to like a FedEx and like other certain businesses. And he worked out this whole chain of custody of the fetuses thing. And he's like, it looks to me like this product Team, which is like an artificial blood that they're using at KFC and like Yum Brands franchises. He's like, it looks to me like he can trace it from like Planned Parenthood through FedEx being sent out to like the processing center and then to the Yum Brands, Taco Bell and KFC and all that for their meat-free alternatives using heme.
Mark's like, I don't want to be here for Pizzagate. All right, that's how it is. I mean, but it's pretty fair to look at the maps and say there's something going on with, the incentivization of stem cell research. And South Park did a couple episodes that really kind of pointed that out as well. There were, people pushing for stem cell research, which is why it became so popular in Panama, because Panama made a law that said you couldn't get stem cells from aborted fetal tissue, but then there's a lot of other ways to get stem cells. And so it made it legal so long as it was just not this one way. And, it became like the epicenter for a lot of that stuff.
Wow.
But, in Canada, too, they have like the similar laws. Like there are ways to do it. So,
well, the joke's on these adrenochrome people because, soon you won't need that for life extension anyhow through gene editing and stuff like that. You wouldn't have needed to drink any babies. So you could have just waited a little longer.
Yeah, but they're saying, this is probably for the purpose of manufacturing new synthetics. So they're studying these things more and more as well. That's what it seems like these educational purposes are, to figure out what happens when you inject new blood in old mice and all that.
Oh, sure.
I don't know. Well, I was also looking at Peru. There was this city called Chan Chan. Have you heard of it? Like, because it completely got disappeared. This was super nuts. Cool. So it's this amazingly giant, beautiful place that's covered in sand. Like it was very DuckTales. Just like they covered in sand dunes, and you have to dig it out. But it's ornate, and it was built over, 1,000 years ago, 60,000 people, 14 square miles. It had basically a lot of the features that are similar to what we talk about in Atlantis, the same kind of 23-kilometer design.
Concentric rings?
Instead of concentric rings, it has this spiraling square pattern, right? So you've got like a yin-yang of squares that like spiral from one direction to the other. But it still has, because of that access to every point, which is interesting because a lot of the stuff is grid there instead of spirals, right? Like all over South America, there's a lot of this stuff. And this is also pretty similar to what we have today. A lot of the cities today are built in these grid-like patterns, which kind of makes me wonder as well if there's a reason for that, because it wasn't always that way. You look at like Paris and Italy, and Rome and Paris, they both have a lot of spirals and circles in the streets. The roads can curve around, and it gets really difficult to drive cars today. Whereas like in New York, it's all these like grids, similar to what it is in some of these East Asian cities and in South America as well in Peru. But of course, this is what happens when it's like flooded. Here's some mud flood footage. So pretty brutal. I mean, the Waiko stuff, and just more examples. Like they're like, why is it so hard for us to find this stuff in Peru? So it's kind of interesting.
And Chan Chan, have they dated Chan Chan to any particular age at the time of this reporting? Or do we have a kind of 1470? What is this?
They try to say it's like 1,000 years ago, so maybe between 850 and 1,500 years, sometime in there, as their culture.
Well, it certainly does seem like the simulation is starting to reveal a little bit of its back end. I mean, it's fascinating to see these revelations of what we might consider ancient cities that might not be so ancient, that might be a lot more fresh and freshly preserved because of certain geological catastrophes like mud floods come about. And that's a really interesting point that you bring up about how NYC and a lot of other modern cities are laid out in a grid-like structure. The easy write-off is, well, it's easy to navigate, but that presupposes that it was difficult to navigate before it was a grid, which clearly it wasn't, because we have a lot of cities that weren't like that, Venice et al. So what would be the purpose or incentive to design a city like this, Chan Chan, before we had cars and electricity and all that BS that the modern world calls so special? Or maybe they had it.
Probably just utility of space is the only thing I can think of. When you put everything on a grid, you eliminate all kinds of like little triangles between curved lines and stuff and just maximize space usage.
Yeah, it's so methodical, though, still, that they're building out. I mean, it's actually like top down.
Well, that's right. They had a vision. Yes. Right. Sorry.
So, I mean, it's interesting that to decide that everyone's going to live inside of a kind of a hive that's planned, and it doesn't just organically develop.
Right. It seems like there's lots of instances of ancient cultures that moved underground, and that leaves us to wonder about that. And there a lot of people, thinkers today and futurists do propose that mankind will move underground either because of changes in the sun or not changes in the sun, but changes in our in the atmosphere that filter the sunlight, or because of drone warfare becoming ubiquitous, that the only place you'll be safe is underground with low ceilings or something. So I don't know. I've heard a whole bevy of reasons, or just that ancients left instructions on how to withstand expected cataclysmic events on like a solar calendar, like predicting using the pyramids or something, like, hey, in 900 years, you're going to want to go underground for 500 years, just an FYI or something. So there's a lot of proposed explanations.
When does it get to be, okay, well, maybe I'll ask this question more but later, but rhetorically at least, when does it get to be Occam's razor to consider paranormal phenomena as the more simple explanation? So if all of these things seem to be changing in history, when can we say, is it possible that history itself is changing, that something is changing along the line?
Is it still rhetorical? It's okay. We'll think about it.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got to jump on that thought, that's
come
fine.
back after the break. Yeah.
I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but somebody said something earlier today about you picked the right timeline. They're telling me I picked the right timeline because things are turning out the way they are anyhow, and I don't mind it. Regarding AI specifically, but they're like, you picked the right timeline then, and it just triggered a thought in me that like time, now that we're seeing the scale of human development be expanded over like way more thousands of years or even hundreds of thousands of years of civilization, we have no idea anymore. It almost seems like time is broad enough that you don't need multiple timelines for everything to happen. Like there's been so many things that happen just with human civilization that we see evidence on the earth, and just seems to span unthinkable amounts of time. So we might get a chance to ride every ride in this one timeline.
There was this guy I talked to earlier today in Germany and Austria, Wilhelm, and he's invented this thing. He has a way of looking at
the dude on the left, the bearded guy. You talked to him?
Bearded guy, yeah. And so he's trying to take back the word gravity. He's like, there's a way to use this. It's not completely nonsense. There's actually some kind of tension that exists. And he's created a thing that actually seems to move the field of energy, but not the electromagnetic field. And it affects water and moisture. And some of this, we were talking earlier about, can this be used to stop high electromagnetic phenomena from impacting, creating space-time disturbances? And the answer is no. We don't have something right now that we can use, it sounds like, that can really stop a major space-time disturbance, if we have a huge array of 5G towers, if we have a bunch of volcanoes, if something shifts the Schumann resonance, if we all do at once, whatever it is that causes it, we don't really have a good system that can stop that from shifting and changing whatever we're deciding is the past or coordination we're calling this string of space-time. So, I mean, if that's what it is, right? But
how do we currently detect space-time disruptions?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we don't. We have people that have hysterical phenomena. They say, okay, we saw the Berenstain Bear book.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Or we have people that remember incorrectly, or something just seems to be, maybe the history.
So in search of a force like gravity that can pull your consciousness into a neighboring timeline, basically.
It's all a glitch in the simulation, bro. It's all simulation.
Even the way they try to teach evolution kind of leads you on this weird cyclic pattern, this idea that everything started where it begins because it ended eventually at the beginning. The greatest sophistication ends up becoming DNA, which then proliferates as different kinds of change. I mean, just the idea that it starts out with the most sophisticated. DNA is the far most sophisticated idea, and then all these other things are just kind of phenomena that like come from that, according to mainstream. It's just very cyclic. So it seems that's kind of the entire point of space-time. And we could maybe make that argument that space-time is a cycle instead of just a line, because it's always affecting itself. Basically,
it would stand to reason, like so above, so below. Everything within space-time seems to move cyclically. I mean, so maybe the whole thing itself restarts as well. Like the whole thing sucks into a black hole and comes out of a big bang and starts over. But what was more interesting about what you were showing there on screen is it's kind of like on the vanguard of thought, thinking about evolution like life wide, as opposed to the species wide evolution, thinking of evolution like everything, all life and consciousness evolving in a certain direction, and probably cyclical as well.
Right. Just the idea that DNA itself has sort of an error correction system, and it shows that it's already so sophisticated that anything that we're trying to do is being built by this supercomputer. So the supercomputer supersedes the complexity of the being, like the snail, the whale, the person. These things are less
right. But the supercomputer doesn't come out of nowhere like a butterfly. You got to have the caterpillars.
So there's got to be, so it's a weird, it just seems like there's some kind of phenomenon there that defies what we understand as alpha to omega time. It's like this kind of.
My question is, why is it a threat, or why is it scary? Because people have the knee-jerk reaction. They're like, what if humans are just the genitals of AI? It's like humans just rub together till we create AI, and then we go away like the caterpillar. So
we said that yesterday with like the genitals of mushrooms, basically. Like we're trying, instead of the panspermia, that we're the most likely way to get.
Well, pick your poison. My point is, like, why do we fear evolution if evolution brings an end to the things we're familiar with, like flesh and art and music and stuff like that? Maybe that's just a brief period of evolution. Like there's upsides to caterpillars too. They're green and pretty. Maybe like there's tradcon caterpillars who are just like not into being a butterfly.
Right. I don't know. I got thoughts.
Neither do I. I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about.
Really?
I never know what you guys. I went to get a tea and came back, and I think I caught like one thing y'all were talking about. And I was like, yeah, it sounds like
it's probably my fault every time.
Sounds like
simulation. Like that movie Terminator. Don't even pretend like you haven't pondered this thought. Like
I saw this YouTube video about simulation theory, and I was like, yeah, I could buy into that.
I mean, like the older you get, don't you care about your body less? You're like, this thing's pretty much worn out anyhow. Like if my consciousness just goes into some ether or a robot, like at this point, I understand when you're young and virile, you're like, I could live forever. I don't want to change anything.
Well, I don't care what happens after I'm dead, but now that I'm older, I care about my body more because it's getting old and sucks.
Would there be a point when you're like
more easily now? Yes.
Would you allow them to either transfer your consciousness to a pain-free like Cylon body, or to actually transfer your whole brain into like a Cylon body if it's like indiscernible from?
Would it really be my brain, or would it be just some cheap knockoff copy that they've just downloaded into a computer that can mimic me like an AI can mimic somebody's voice?
Well, definitely wouldn't be your brain. It would be something else, but it would be maybe be higher resolution.
No one could capture.
You can capture a record, a copy of a record. What's up, Gunwoo? How's it going?
Hello.
What do you think?
Wednesday Ultra?
I think your sound is messed up. We're trying to figure out though about reincarnation.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it was muted.
There we go.
What do you think about reincarnation and cyber reincarnation? Just being able to substrate independence, upload your mind into a machine.
Yeah, I've heard about the breakaway civilization and all, but I don't know too much about cyber reincarnation. But like in terms of actual like esoteric reincarnation, yeah, so what I believe is that like hell doesn't exist, except like rather like that our current state of existence is the quote unquote hell, the cycle of samsara that the Buddhists say, and that we're meant to repeat this cycle and reincarnate constantly until we actually find a way to let go of our own egos to enter heaven, Jannah, or nirvana that people tend to say. And during my own personal analysis of all the world religions that are related to Indo that has some kind of tangent to Indo-Aryanism, I've noticed that like they're all syncretic of each other, from Abrahamism to Buddhism to like paganism. Norse paganism is literally like all syncretic of each other. You have Zeus, Thor, God, like it's all the same. There's a book that I recommended on the Discord called the Eden in the East, by this guy named Stephen Oppenheimer, I think. Eden in the East. Yeah, Stephen Oppenheimer, and like that pretty much lays out everything that I just said.
Very cool.
I was just thinking about that book actually the other day. Keep going. Sorry.
Well, just familiar with similar mappings of reality. You have the Kabbalistic tree of life and then the world tree coming from Norse tradition that do strike very similar chords in terms of placements of...
I can't spell it. Help me spell it.
Oh, what are we spelling?
Yggdrasil.
Yggdrasil with the D, yeah.
Yggdrasil. We did
the
it.
world tree.
I have a horrible conspiracy.
Yeah, so if you look at Yggdrasil, the whole, the pagan mapping of like what they believe is the universe, and if you compare that to the Vedic universe, is the exact same model.
Really?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And the only total break is Abrahamic religion is a total break from all other. It's like an evolutionary.
Well, again, you have mystical Kabbalah that does relate quite closely.
That's the thing. You've got the Sephirah. It's totally connected to the
Yggdrasil. I was saying that all world religions and philosophies are connected to the Buddhist concept or the Hermetic principles, except for Abrahamic religion, which is a total departure where energy doesn't cycle. Energy leaves the system and goes into another system called heaven or hell.
But then the concept of eternal life, though.
Even into the Third Council of Carthage in like the 4th century, which in flamenco years is later, they did not use the crucifix as a major symbol for Christ. The Christ crucifix symbol, it was banished. You couldn't even use it for the most part. The Celts had to convert their saints. Was it the Saint Bridget? The Bridget cross, which they turned this sideways and they called this a cross.
Wow.
But originally what it was Odin on the Yggdrasil. And
being crucified on the cross. Yeah, being a syncretic of Jesus on the cross.
I never saw that.
Oh, it's such a big, because this is really where we get that symbology. I mean, for the most part, in a lot of ways, it's connected to Odin and Wotanism and the Yggdrasil, because they wouldn't accept this idea of a failed Christ, but they could accept kind of this Beowulf like sacrificial thing.
Yeah, it's one of the main reasons why Scandinavians converted to Christianity, because it made sense.
Well, they had to, again, it didn't. They created at this point, right before this, Christianity didn't have that symbol. You remember?
Wait, really?
Yeah. You go back in time and you've got the Ixthus. You got the Ixthus Christ for as a symbol. You're the fish, right? The fish was really important to Christianity. Right, it was definitely not that secret. Everyone acts like it's a secret symbol. It was really very common because it meant exactly. And they associated Christ also. Where's the picture? I always forget it. The graffiti Christ. You know what I'm talking about from the Alex. So this is the picture of Jesus. That people thought of him as this kind of donkey-headed guy who could fly, and he's in the Gospel of Nicodemus, which if you read the Cotton Codex,
wait, who drew that? A
Roman
4-year-old?
A kindergartner that was touched by the light of God.
Oh, man,
draw my son, my child.
So go back to the picture again. And he flies. You go too quick for my dumb brain. Okay.
You go too fast, Salieri.
All right. So this was a stone rubbing trace of the drawing.
Right.
So it was some 3-year-old freaking scribbling some crap on something.
Yeah, it looks like a mockery of Jesus, actually.
It's supposed to be. Some people say it's a mockery. Other people
Typical
say this is
worshiping going on in this show.
There's some pretty. I'm just saying there were in the Roman period around the year 200. A lot of people were confused about Christ, and they thought that they were worshiping not a guy who rode in on a donkey, but rode in as a donkey.
What?
And so there was a misliteration. So a lot of people were confused about what Christians were. Really? And they were like, who are Christians? Well, Christians are those weirdos who live underground and they worship that guy.
Worship underground, yes.
Christ.
Yes,
Who's Christ?
right.
Well, he was very strange, and this is a picture of him. And these are them worshiping.
Go back to the original, like not the trace with the.
Yeah. No, this is what you got. You know, it's
Hey,
carved.
Andreas, check your DM on Facebook. I sent you the Vedic universe model and the a screenshot of the book guarding the.
This is either a child or some 60 IQ adult that's just like.
It does make you wonder, though, because at that point in time, Rome had good relations and information transfer with Egypt, and in Egypt, there's significance to people with different kinds of animal heads.
God, where's my article on that? Buddhists mingled with Romans in Egypt. I was just reading about that earlier too. Ancient.
So if you draw someone with a certain animal head, it might have meaning to it. That's not like a mockery.
I'm pretty sure we touched on Greco-Buddhism before on your stream, but it ties into all of that. I wanted to
like Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius, and Stoicism is pretty much rhymes perfectly with Buddhism.
Okay, here's the first thing. I can get the picture big enough. My God, this is ridiculous. Open image new tab.
Compare. Hold on. Let me actually send you the full resolution.
Dang. Okay. Also, Gospel Nicodemus, just follow my train of thought, was where in the Cotton Codex they found Beowulf and the Gospel of Nicodemus. And this is where Jesus has this, he's got a donkey head. He's friends with St. Christopher, who has a dog head. Awesome. He can fly. They go down to the garden. They go down to hell, and they find Adam and Eve, and they pull them out of hell and the harrowing of hell, which is the best story that's not in the Bible anymore because they took out the Gospel of Nicodemus.
Yeah, I'm under the impression that the hell is a Catholic invention due to the incorporation of like local pagan ideology. Like the first time that hell is mentioned is HEL with this, which is like from Nordic paganism.
Right, and also, Nordic paganism and Hellenism are totally connected, and they're not.
Because the Cyrillic
Hela is the god of the dead in Norse mythology.
Dude, and also when kids say hella, I'm gonna leave it at that.
That's a Northern California.
I'm just gonna uplift it a bit by saying it's about Hellenism. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so you sent me the thing. Let me see here. Yeah, perfect. Okay.
This is going to be another one of those episodes where we never talk about what the episode.
We're going to get to your
what is the episode? Right.
Every episode.
Yeah. So compare this model to the Yggdrasil tree. It's the exact same.
Oh yeah. Okay, let me get to the Yggdrasil.
Quite similar. Lots of similarities.
Yggdrasil. I'll never forget how to spell it after this. That's it. We're never gonna have a problem again.
Yeah,
why do we call it Yggdrasil? Because it's hard to say.
I mean, it is pretty similar looking. Let me go back. Where is it? Okay. Boom. Okay, and this is also kind of the interesting thing. Everyone talks about flat Earth instead of this kind of hollow Earth, but this is that very Koresh Teed thing that we're in this sort of snow globe universe with a toroid. And this toroid comes up a lot. Today, this guy I was talking to, Wilhelm, he was talking all about toroid is where the energy is coming from. So you have to hang this thing like 20 feet above the ground for it to work, the thing you made.
Cool.
So what's going on with Shiva there? It's got like an energy ray that turns into a dolphin and goes into a tree.
How see the dolphin? Where's the dolphin?
Shiva.
Oh yeah, there it is. The
goes into a dolphin, and that goes into a tree.
The Goberta, or however you pronounce that, is the primordial ocean that is a common theme or motif in every religion in the world, which represents the space or the gravity.
Right. Yeah. The first line of the Torah is God was alone in the endless waters.
And this is the syncretic of every religion in the world in the book Garden of Eden.
Ishtar, Nana. Okay. Bananas. Yeah, some people said that the tree of life is the banana. I remember that being a thing.
The banana tree?
Yeah, because the bananas grow on volcanoes. They might be the fruit of life or the fruit of knowledge.
Also, is it because of its phallic interpretation? Or
not all bananas look like that. Like,
I mean, there
red.
is a lot of phallic motifs in ancient religions.
Yeah, but like you can get like the red banana. I don't know. There's different kinds of bananas. That's all I'm saying. Like if you go to South America, like
Well, that just looks like a dog penis now.
all
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
I
Red
give up.
rocket.
I give up. What am I even dealing with here? Okay. Wait. So should we just go to the Virginia? Because that really is Virginia. Virginia. Okay. So what is the deal with the Virginia report?
I don't know. You asked me for topics. This is like just a documentary I saw.
Well, yeah, this has been the clip on TikTok, right? Everyone's been sending.
I saw the TikTok clip.
Everyone saw 90 seconds of Rogan being like, "Dude, there was aliens."
Yeah, I heard that whole episode. But Pink Trip, you go, bro. You watched the documentary.
Yeah, it's actually you can find it on Odyssey. It's somebody acts like they're going to react to it, and then they just play the whole documentary. So.
What's it called? Making Contact or something like that?
I don't know how much longer. Yeah, making. I don't know. I think it's Making Contact. It's called. I got it right here. It's James Fox.
Yeah.
Moment of Contact.
Moment of Contact. 2023.
Yeah, and I watched some of his episode on Rogan, and I was like, let me go watch this and see if I can find it. And it's pretty interesting. Like, honestly, at the end of the day, the part of my brain goes, it's most likely bullshit. But all the people he talked to in Brazil, like, they really had me convinced. I was like, holy shit, I'm actually believing this happened. But if you go read the wiki, I think I still have it pulled up, the official government response, because like these two little girls saw an alien like against a fence with like bright red eyes, and the way they described it, it couldn't be anything other than an alien. But according to Brazilian authorities, it was a citizen known as Mudino, who probably has some mental disability and whose physical characteristics match the description. So apparently there's a dude named Mudino that looks exactly like an alien wandering around Brazil.
Glowing red eyes.
And it smells like sulfur and
that's a whole other documentary right there.
That's just Mudino. Pay no mind to Mudino.
And then somebody said they saw the alien in a hospital, but according to Brazilian authorities, it was actually an expectant couple who had dwarfism.
Yeah, there was a midget having
exactly. Wow. Bro, I can tell the difference. I see dwarves all the time, and I never.
Explanations kind of make me believe it. To be honest.
That's some rough shot spinning right there.
Brazil's wild enough that all of that stuff could be happening at the same time, and I wouldn't have been confused about it at all.
Yeah, and then the soldier who like had to like come in contact with it because they captured the alien. Like he like I forgot what he died of, but he went into the hospital shortly after, and then died like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah,
right. He got like some liquid, like he touched it, and the liquid got into his skin, and he died.
Yeah, and he died very violently and whatnot.
No, I think he just died from an infection. Like he went in. He said he felt fine.
I've heard the infection was very excruciating and violent. Like almost close to like Ebola symptoms. That's what I heard.
Yeah, I might have missed that part.
Yeah, I heard it was like a flesh-eating.
Infection
that
isn't it like bleeding out of there's a video game.
Wow, even worse.
There's a video game about the Virginia incident as well, which also kind of like
pick up alien touch.
Who would make this video game unless it was real? That's the other. I don't know. I feel like that's suspicious. But
do you want to touch alien? Yes. No.
I don't know. Virginia. It's like also weird because Virginia historically isn't that like in Brazil where the Confederates.
It's Virginia, not Virginia.
Virginia,
as I like to say, vagina.
Virginia.
The root word of that probably is vagina, though. Honestly,
virgin or something like that. Yeah. So isn't it? It's just it's north of Rio. I don't know. I think it's in the Confederate. Yeah, isn't it near the Confederate territory? Where's the Confederate? Brazil.
I don't know shit about Brazil, so I just
know it's in Brazil. When the Confederates left the United States, some of them, they created a state in South Brazil. And they have a celebration every year where they celebrate being Confederate.
How close are they to Nazi town?
No, well, that's in Argentina. They're pretty east. They're pretty east of there.
No, there was a Nazi town in Brazil.
Oh my goodness!
Nazis had a syndicate in every South American.
Bahia is interesting.
Gun was like, hold on a minute.
These are
thank you.
But I mean, it means something different. You know what I mean? Kind of similar to like the skaters who have swastikas in their skateboard pools in Paraguay. I think these guys are using the Confederate flag and dancing without any. I mean, they're all different races and ethnicities.
Confederates weren't using their own flag to represent evil and slavery either.
The irony is this is the battle flag.
They were fighting.
Oh, that's the what's the regular stars and bars then?
Confederate flag. Let me show you the actual Confederate.
It's about states' rights, man.
Nobody knows this.
Okay,
for whatever reason. But
is this the American flag, the battle flag?
This is basically the original flag of the United States has been updated because it's less stars and more stars. Yeah. But this is the Confederate flag, and then we were familiar with the battle flag, which is to go into battle.
I've been told, and I don't know if
it's a cooler flag.
That's
a cooler flag.
the modern United States flag is also our war flag, and we're supposed to have a flag in peacetime with vertical lines. Is that true, or is that just some internet BS?
I have no idea on that.
I have
to be
no
honest,
idea either.
Yeah, I've heard something like that, but I don't remember it too well.
Every time someone starts telling me like, "No, you don't understand," Kennedy, they showed him a projected film, and then I just kind of calm down and leave the room. So I miss out on some of the best conspiracies these days. I know. But
this is crazy, though.
This is what it's like in Brazil. So every day is
awesome. I need to visit this place.
Yeah,
you do. Wild. It's great. They're nice people, and you know, there's again people that are indigenous. There are people that are black. There are people that are all different. There's no kind of
why you got to mention their color, dude?
Because it's not like they're into slavery or anything like that.
It's a hazard.
I just want to because I think there's a weird Southern culture. What I find very strange is Americans still think that the Confederacy was like super pro-slavery, whereas the North continued to have sweatshops. And then we have a civil rights thing in 1960. But in the South, they had an idea, and they'd already created gradual emancipation, which said that in this Confederacy, by 1900, everyone born of any color would be a free citizen, right? Yeah. So Confederacy was moving towards a free America, but they thought it would take like a generation. So they said, okay, everyone born after 1900, not perfect, agreed. But then by 1960, they figured everybody would probably be fine. So it's kind of interesting, compare that to the American system with the civil rights movement. But nobody was saying, hey, slavery is going to work. They all knew the Eli Whitney cotton gin had arrived. You know,
it's an evolution of serfdom, and it was the only form of social mobility at the time for racial minorities, especially blacks. And I'm very adamant about the position that the Civil War was about banking rather than slavery. I mean, because I live in Georgia, because I have firsthand account of majority of this information. And yeah, awesome. People completely overlook the Coinage Act of 1857 and the Andrew Jackson's bank wars that led up to the 1861 war of the Civil War.
Right. Yeah, the bank wars are key because just the idea of creating and taking over and creating kind of a private bank that controls like his own bid against the Federal Reserve, like the first Federal Reserve.
But dude's got a full cat on his head.
I mean, his hands were supposed to be thick like leather, right? Like he'd burned his skin or something, so his hands were just like gloves. His skin was like thick like gloves or something. Like
hardcore
Andrew Jackson was.
Can you tell me though, why's the guy got a cat on his head?
I mean, it's a cool hat.
I don't think that's a hat. It's like a living cat.
Maybe it's a living cat. I don't know.
Maybe people just did that back in the day.
But you know what that Confederate town in Brazil just makes me think of is like Galaxy Quest, just like preserving traditions that we have no connection
Brazil
with the original
is such an
meaning of.
Interesting place, man. They had Nazi contact, Confederate contact. They also had what else? Mormon contact. Like they have a pretty much like a centralized syndicate of all these like niche subcultures that have existed throughout history.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
that's fascinating. Wow.
They got rogues gallery, just bad guys.
Lenovo's Motorola factories out of Brazil. They run most of the South American mobile and cellular systems out of Brazil. It's like super powerful. I mean, the technology that's there, the Google firms there too. They have super fast internet, for instance, whereas in Peru it's super slow. I mean,
it's honestly insane because Brazil is considered a third world nation with like its favela issue and whatnot.
Isn't
but, the fact that they are actually infrastructurally advanced is insane.
No, but I thought it wasn't considered a third world. I thought it was considered.
Well, third world's a funny term because Tito.
I'm seeing a list of like countries that were
Tito invented,
and Brazil wasn't listed in that. All the countries around it were, but not Brazil.
Yeah, there's no second world countries. I've never heard of one.
So Tito said, "All right. You guys know what the first world is. That's the royal, world. That's the imperial world. America and Britain and these kind of corporatist worlds. That's the old way of things. Then there's the second world, the new world. The second world is the Soviet Union, the socialist world, the new.
Oh, really?
And then we don't want to be part of the second world. We want to be the third world. We'll be the third world, the third option. We'll have Coca-Cola and jeans, and we'll have social dentistry and agriculture. We'll do whatever we want."
No kidding.
And so it wasn't class-based. It wasn't first class. And when the Soviet Union fell, people very quickly adapted this branding idea that you don't want to be part of the second world. You want to be part of the first world because it's the first class. Oh. And it's a complete misunderstanding.
Brazil has the 12th largest GDP in the world, and it's categorized as a developing country with a high human development index. Brazil is considered an advanced emerging economy. So yeah, it's definitely not third world. I've seen I don't know. I just watched a gaming tournament down in Brazil. It seems like they got a lot going on.
I agree.
Brazil used to be very developed prior to 1850, but due to corruption, they went downhill, which is why they're considered "quote unquote" developed.
there are pockets of, just like anywhere in the United States,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
every city, pockets of terrible poverty and other things. But yeah, it also seems like Brazil's got a lot more going on. And from what I know, between third world and then developing nations, these terms were bandied about late 80s, early 90s in that rebranding movement. When the Soviet Union fell, it no longer was first, second, third world. It became developed and developing.
I was trying to find the footage of Brazil. Here's my, if you go to my channel and you look up Sao Paulo 1943, you can find footage of Sao Paulo. It's a beautiful place. It's where a lot of the infrastructure was. There's already electric cars. There was all the cars they're making in South America at the time were being made. German factory style things being made in Brazil. You know,
do a live stream from Brazil, boys. We got to go.
I got a quick question. Is Fort Wayne, Indiana, is that first world?
Because yes, in the United States,
is Philadelphia first world?
Is Chicago?
Right. Yeah. Is East Palestine?
It's not first. It's not first class, but it's first world. That's the thing. It's not.
But look at that cognitive dissonance that ends up happening just with these terms being banned.
I mean, Brazil. Look at this. This is crazy. When people think Brazil, I don't think they understand for whatever reason. Still, I think Brazilians are confused and Americans don't know. Look at these guys. Look at their electric cars and their big trucks and their factories making ice.
They're energy rich for sure. That's always good. If you can take advantage of that.
Crazy. I don't know. So yeah, I think there's a misunderstanding in the power of Brazil. But then so you've got this Virginia incident and the girls, and then there's a guy who's Virginia. I mean, and so yeah, it's supposed to be this like horrifying alien that's in broad daylight also. So what do you think it is? Do you think it really
by the way, there was also multiple reports of telepathic communications from different unrelated parties who witnessed the crash and the alien. They said two different witnesses who weren't related said that when they made contact with the being, it was sending them like pleas for help telepathically.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, but I saw there was the two little girls that witnessed them. And then there was like witnesses that are in that documentary that worked for the military. One of them that actually transported it. There was a guy who witnessed the actual plane, the actual crash of the UFO. And then,
and they say the crash was caused by lightning. Is that right? A lightning storm?
I don't remember if the doc I saw had that.
For some, I saw the Joe Rogan interview with the director of the doc, but for some reason, like all these juicy details were left on the cutting room floor and only in the Joe Rogan interview.
It's possible I might have missed it, man. You know, like a 2-hour documentary.
Well, yeah, it's like a 2-hour, but it was like a 3.5-hour podcast. So maybe
I didn't see the whole podcast. I just saw the clip.
I'd still like to see the movie though. But yeah, there was one of those two sisters and someone else reported telepathic messages from the alien, but when it was making eye contact.
I wonder what did the alien say?
It was asking for help. It was like, "Can you please help me? Like my ship got knocked out by lightning. I'm screwed." Well, not those details, but it was just asking for help.
Help.
So I'm convinced the firmament exists, but like if the firmament does exist, how do aliens enter the Earth?
They're from underwater.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Like they're actually Agarthans that have been shrunk and became pale skinned due to living underground for so long.
I don't know any about that. I just know I don't even know if there is an outer space, but we know for sure there's 80% of the Earth is ocean and it's unexplored. So
it's all assimilation. It don't matter.
If they are interdimensional in any significant degree, they would not need to travel through space to.
If they were interdimensional, we wouldn't be able to sense them because the other dimensions escape our senses. So if we're detecting them.
Well, they would then have to come into our dimension. Clearly, this being
everyone's got the black bell thing. When you talk about Brazil a minute ago, the thing to remember, you got Coca-Cola and Sol Negro, right? So you've got the technology exists in Brazil. Brazil, Black Sun. I don't know if you can find, but there's a lot of these. There's a lot of secret power plant and hydroelectric plant that's right on the border of Iguazu between Brazil, Argentina, and Paraguay, where they get 40% of most of their power. I mean, they have all the systems they need if they wanted to build something that's like the Black Bell, the Glockenspiel, that can open a Stargate. I mean, if that's what is necessary. But what do you think with the firmament? I mean, because obviously, what's the Bikini Bottom Atoll experiments called again? Project Fishbowl Project.
The nuclear experiments in Bikini Atoll.
Fishbowl.
Yeah. So what is the deal? I mean, because is it not that they're just trying to poke holes in a firmament that they can't get through, or what?
Looks a lot like that when you see the rockets leaving a wake like a boat in the ocean. But I mean, just because things look similar, you don't really know.
They have so
there
many
was also the
interesting names.
Project A119 where they plan to nuke the moon.
111-19?
Yeah. Or just 119.
Dang, bro. Okay, why would they try to do that?
Oh,
I've heard about this also for environment, right? Because they thought it would help start an environment on the moon.
Not necessarily. They wanted to study the effects of what would happen if a nuclear bomb went off. But then, like, I'm pretty sure there's another side narrative behind this, or intention.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, you can make clouds. You can start cloud seeding and hopefully create some sort of a.
Yeah, that's one of the main propositions of terraforming Mars, is to like bomb the atmosphere.
Yeah. Does make it colder? Isn't it already too cold?
Well, so what would happen is it would take 100 years.
Well, they don't know what happened.
Clouds.
Yeah. They don't know what happened. No one knows shit about that.
After that, then maybe we'd be fine. Is the goal, right? Yeah.
No one knows what the hell's going
the
on.
The Mars Trilogy by Kim Stanley Robinson does a great job discussing the actual scientific progression that multiple kind of vectors of terraforming actually do, in effect, by the third book, turn Mars into a living planet. It's a beautiful trilogy. Highly recommend it. No weirdo alien stuff. Humans. It's called the Mars Trilogy. Kim Stanley Robinson. It's award-winning. I cannot recommend that trilogy enough.
I will,
especially for, I would love to know what you think, because I think you would really love
I want to try to shoehorn in. It kind of relates to the firmament, but I wanted to say something about lightning, because this is not the only report of a UFO being Roswell. It was a lightning storm. You know what I mean? So it seems like the one sensitivity that this technology has is to lightning. And in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, Thoth predicts that the end times of man will be the end of the cycle is when man masters the power of electricity, which is like not electricity, but lightning, when man controls lightning, because it's like the ultimate, 1,000,000 times more powerful than nuclear bomb, war weapon, just instant destruction with no warning. So yeah, that was, so it seemed there could be some kind of warfare going on here. It could be a targeted lightning strike to bring down these things. So you think they'd try to avoid lightning storms if that's.
They've conquered gravity. They've conquered millions of years of time of the light speed travel.
Yep.
But they just haven't figured out how to deal with lightning yet.
Well, that's what Thoth was saying. Is this lightning is the most powerful thing in existence.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's a tribute to like every godhead that has been in every religion, like from Baal to Zeus to God. Sure. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Remember that episode of The Outer Limits? Like one of the first episodes of The Outer Limits, and this guy, like, he's controlling radio and he gets a radio contact, and then he basically manifests this alien out through the electricity because it had no control over the waves, and it was waiting for some equipment or some kind of a machine or natural crystal.
Yeah, that's a David Lynchian model too, that spirits travel between what you guys are referring to as dimensions through electricity and electric infrastructure, even like telephone, electric wires and outlets and all that stuff.
So this is something I was thinking about earlier. A lot of people talk about the speed of light, and I was thinking, is it really a speed of light, or is it maybe the speed of instance of energy? Because if it's not that something's moving so much that it's vibrating, like if this isn't actually something that's projecting itself and moving from point A to point B, but it's actually, this is a spring, this is a full solid right here, it's a string.
Then if it's sorry.
Oh, it's in the beginning, at the end, at the same time, right?
Gotcha. But to bounce off what BBDC said, this is some pretty schizo shit, but like I've been hearing around that like that computer chips are actually sigils that are being manipulated by demons. I've heard about that, and like but also, do you remember the mid-2000s UFO videos talking about like the David Icke territory, about like talking about how aliens are actually interdimensional demons? Have you seen those videos?
I'm familiar with the subject matter, and some of the Collins Elite references a lot of that as well. Yeah,
I just don't buy it. To me, it doesn't compute that.
Those are all Solomonic sigils. Yes.
Well, that I buy the microchips and the sigils. I don't buy like interdimensional beings, because we're in all the dimensions. All matter consumed is in takes up all dimensions. We're not sensing what's going on in some of the. We don't have information or concepts of what some of the full shape of the geometry of the thing, but we're in all the dimensions right now. So there's not any being that's like only flat and only lives in the second dimension. I can't conceive of that personally, at least.
maybe like if AI, you create a machine that's on a sensor, and the only sensor it has access to information of is in one plane of data.
Hold on, I'm gonna come back. I gotta eat dinner real quick.
You gotta think
Go your dinner.
Dimensions like it's like things that could be there, but like there's no way we could sense them because we're not tuned into those frequencies. So you almost think of them as frequencies.
Yes.
Yeah.
More than
exactly.
like
So what would it mean for a being that's just like us, is existing in all space and all time, all dimensions, what we're calling them? How does it then come here where our senses have it's available to our senses?
That's the idea with DMT, right? It's the idea with DMT is like you're somehow locking into a frequency where you can contact with these other frequencies, dimensions. I mean, maybe dimensions.
Right, but if you say they're in another dimension, like an other or a separate from you, and they're not supposed to be here, to me, that's a denial of reality, which is just that they're here with us all. Sorry, go ahead.
We use a different word than dimension, another realm.
Well, no, just the only reason I have that's a sticking point for me is because it creates a whole new philosophy. We're there over there, and we're over here, and in my model, we're all in the exact same place together, and we're just not sensing them.
Yeah, just like all the radio frequencies are in the same place.
There it is.
Yes,
you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but that's an important philosophical distinction that like they inhabit their space upside down, and they're not supposed to come here. They're traveling through wormholes to go into other dimensions. No, they're in all the dimensions.
We're deaf to certain frequencies, right? It's like old people can't hear certain sounds.
And mantis shrimp see 50 million colors and stuff. Yeah.
Right. It might be something like that. I think that makes the most sense. That way we can occupy as much space as possible because all the light can shine through, but we're just one color of the rainbow or something.
Sure. And if they don't want to be seen, their technology, they probably have quantum computing or whatever. So if they don't want to be seen, they just aren't. And it seems like lightning is something that shortcuts all of their technological advances. They become visible. They become.
Why do we always think they're so intelligent? What if they're just like morons?
Well, how do they have
one right thing right? They got this one thing, and they're really just like, well, I don't know. Press this button. That's what they said.
Oh, like they're idiots. They found a crashed UFO and they just started flying in it.
Well, I mean, I think the only like evidence we have of this is like stuff like DMT trips, where people really believe that they're talking to some, what they would say, interdimensional being, right? But they just sit there laughing at you and like pointing their finger at you and stuff. So maybe they're just like stupid chimps that we just happen to glimpse into their reality for a little bit. And we think they're like super genius and shit. Like they have all the answers.
Like you're saying those are the aliens and the UFOs, are the same thing as the DMT elves?
Yeah, well, some people believe that's what the aliens are. The aliens aren't actually traveling here from another universe. They're actually like just here, but in another dimension that we can't reach unless, we somehow lift the veil.
What about Horus Anubis in that show in comic book, The Moon Knight? Did you see that? Because it reminds me of the same idea when kids take salvia. He gets to talk to this like Horus god, and he's annoyed. The god's annoyed that this guy's not really aware how to speak to him, so he just kind of kicks him and throws him out. Lesser demons until he gets a little bit more important to him. He's like, okay, then I'll deal with you. But for a lot of the time, kids didn't mess with salvia for centuries. It was just Lakota tribes used this in the sweat lodge, and then it kind of disappeared. Only the warriors doing it, and then the mothers. And now you've got kids going to gas stations and they buy salvia, and I feel like the salvia was offended. So just like throw people on the ground. And I feel like that's a big problem with the way people are approaching the spirits, is that they're not really respectful or aware that they have different sets of etiquette or something. I mean, imagine the etiquette for this right here. How would you say that? God.
Right. They have ornamentation and garb and stuff, so they must have customs.
And maybe those customs are similar in certain ways, because a lot of customs seem to be pretty similar, like out of respect and everything. But I think that matters.
I'd hang out with them.
Probably
That's a lady. That's a beautiful lady. How dare you assume it's gender?
That was my first thought. She would protect her young. She would die for her king. I don't know. So there's that. I just also think that the idea that the spirits are somehow good or evil isn't the question. It's whether or not they're powerful or capable. I think, if you think about how capable some of humanity is, then there's probably some amount of, if this exists, that's as capable or more capable, at least as capable probably. So it's not unlikely that we would run into something like that. And also there's a lot of things that are more capable than us in different ways that we've already dealt with. Different species that are not maybe as smart as us in certain ways, but they're predatorily, instinctually perfect in other ways. And so who knows, something might be honed in on a certain you know.
Yeah.
You baited me back.
What's up?
You baited me back.
Hello.
I have to interject with the multiple dimension theory that UFO that would be operating on these higher dimensional principles in physics, they would essentially be able to then bring their craft to like manifest into our third dimensional physics realm. When interacting with us, that's when we would be able to see them when they materialize. But then when they operate into whatever wormhole or portal or warp or whatever the heck it is they're using,
just ionic spin, because it could just be
it
could just be that all of the atoms are really the same atoms, but there's a certain ionic spin that's excited, and so it's causing the spin to be at a different speed. So we're just right next to it, really in the same spot, but as it's moving, we're just right behind it, you know, like beads.
What is it? Can you give it an explanation or give me a diagram of what is it to only exist in a higher dimension, but you don't have like
denser material or matter, denser energies, space time. Jeremiah from Exotic Propulsion would be the one to have on to give you the full details and breakdowns of how they work. But it's just essentially that it's space-time folding in on itself into this denser energy that they currently call dark matter or dark energy, but has always been known as this etherical dimension.
I mean, it's not impossible. So you're telling me they travel around in ships only in a higher dimension, but they can make the ship then also be available to lower dimensions so we can interact with it.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Some people have talked about, so Ben Goertzel, who's talked about something kind of like part of this stimulation theory as opposed to simply a simulation theory, that you could have density to a point of higher resolution later. So you start with a fractal model, and then when you decide you want to zoom in, then it creates the data. But the data didn't exist before you
draw distance, like video game draw distance.
Absolutely. And as you decide to get closer, then it has to mathematically assign where that curve would be. So as you zoom in, it's creating more data based on the Mandelbrot set of living math.
Right.
So you could live in a situation where you didn't already have a 10 million megapixel picture, but as the days go by, you zoom in deeper and deeper, and it keeps developing itself.
Well, is there matter in things that exist only in a higher dimension? Is there matter there? Because how many of the lower dimensions are you skipping? Because the first one is the instance.
So that there's a lot of these higher elements that we've now created, but only exist for brief moments of time before they self-implode, collapse, or nuclear decay. So it would definitely be those sort of higher elements that would be existing or stable in these higher dimensions. And as XIRTUS brought up earlier, our visible light spectrum is just a very small amount out of the overall energy light wave spectrums, and that essentially these other dimensions could be existing within those wavelengths. It
doesn't even have to be so far out that we can't observe it. It could be as simple as that when we look at something like this, we're actually looking at excited particles that are part of a superstructure, because the state of matter isn't the same as matter. Matter just means that it's occupying space. It's taking up energy, and it's kind of containing energy in its existence. But it doesn't have to be compressed as ice. It doesn't have to be vaporous. It doesn't have to be plasmoidal. It could be spread out to some sort of super ether beyond anything that we've ever considered. And, that's kind of the Horton Hears a Who about it. That this could be part, and this is, what is it? The Men in Black cat necklace.
Nice. Great reference. On Orion's belt.
The mysteries on Orion's
what is
belt.
word?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like that's
Orion's belt.
That's
great reference.
Sorry, quickly just wanted to state it. Orion, the whole Orion constellation, for those that haven't looked at the topographical maps of Grand Canyon Pyramid Complex, they all perfectly align the tips of every peak in the Grand Canyon directly to all of the stars in the Orion constellation.
Oh, wow.
Ooh, I will look that up. That's cool. Because I know Robert Bouval was the first to break that idea for Egypt. And we've now seen starch structures pop up all over Mesoamerica, and those ancient structures now we're seeing in the Grand Canyon too. Awesome.
Scientists confirm the incredible existence of time reflections as requested to be brought up by, I just saw, where'd you say that? Stuart. Thank you, Stuart. It says, for more than 50 years, scientists theorized that an electromagnetic wave could be reflected temporarily, not just spatially. Yes. Scientists have been unable to confirm the existence of time reflection due to the amount of energy required to create a temporal interface until now. Using an engineered metamaterial. Why am I doing this? Doug.
Using an engineered metamaterial, scientists in New York City were able to successfully observe time reflections for the first time. The explanation of spatial reflections, whether by light or by sound, are pretty intuitive. Electromagnetic radiation in the form of light or sound waves hit a mirror or wall, respectively, and change course. This allows our eyes to see a reflection or echo, dolphin, of the original input. However, for more than 50 years, scientists have theorized that there's another kind of reflection in quantum mechanics known as time reflection.
Okay, now do it as the cheeky German.
The term might conjure up images of a nuclear-powered DeLorean, or in particular, police box, where I'd like to put you right now for suggesting this.
You are all on vacation.
Calm him down. I want like West Hamburg in the 80s.
Now do it Swedish.
Yeah. If you'd like me to do the Swedish, okay. When the entire medium in the whole and electric waves travel suddenly changes course, that causes a portion of the wave in reverse and its frequency transforms into another one.
Is there anything you can't do, man? That's what I want to know.
Keep throwing me another one. You can do from
Mike Tyson.
Because the time reflections require uniform variation across an entire
That one
electromagnetic
needs work. That one needs a little work.
I haven't listened to it in a little while. I gotta try it. I gotta try it out again. He's still young.
Good.
Thanks.
It's good. You can get there though.
I gotta warm up into it a little bit, okay? Don't mess with me. I'll bite your ear off.
That was good. That was better. I mean, this guy's got talent. He's the only talented one here.
So do you detect the reflected time before the experiment, or when are you checking for it? Okay.
How do you detect the reflected time? I don't know.
Does the time, how far, like, I don't know. I guess you have to read the whole thing, but I think some of these topics are so far like
Crikey, there's a reflection in time.
Over my head. This feels so over my head. What does it mean to reflect time?
Yes.
Right?
Awesome.
I agree.
Go from here.
Sean
We got to have Jeremiah on to explain
It's
that.
very difficult to change the properties of a medium quickly enough, uniformly, and with enough contrast in time to reflect electromagnetic signals, because they oscillate very fast. I'm not going to say his name, but a co-author and postdoc student at CUNY-ARSC said in a press statement, "Our idea was to avoid changing the properties of a host material and instead create a metamaterial in which additional elements can be abruptly added or subtracted through fast switches." Or
Morgan Freeman.
We're gonna need
No, that one I can't do. That one.
that one.
There is a time reflection.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you can't actually. That's pretty close. Dude, ain't nothing
God,
you can't
thank
do,
you.
man.
I love the rapid fire. That's a lot of fun. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
you're great. That was
It's a
awesome.
pleasure.
So the time reflection also behaves differently than spatial reflections because the time echo reflects the last part of the signal first. The researchers say that if you looked in a time mirror, you would see your back instead of your face.
I don't get that at all.
I see what you're saying though. Yeah.
So you see the beginning of the signal being sent. Is that what's going on?
I understand that when they're detecting the signal bouncing back, they're seeing the end of it first, so they understand that it's a reflection, but I don't understand how your back is a reflection of your front.
It'd be like listening to a tape on rewind.
Unless that's a
Fast
metaphor.
on pitch.
If he's saying that you can literally make a time mirror and see your back in it, I don't understand that at all.
No,
I
he's
hope
using it
it's
as a
metaphorical.
metaphor, kind
Okay.
of like the tape
It's like
rewind.
it's like an echo. Yeah.
It's a bad metaphor.
if time were a circle and you put a mirror at the beginning, you would then be able to catch the other side of the mirror and see the start point at which
Sure.
you put the mirror in.
Which would be your front, but left, right, inverted.
You'd be going around and seeing your back.
Oh, okay. I
Because
don't
the
get
mirror,
it.
because it's circle.
I give up. I
mirror,
can't get it.
like, oh, what's back here? Oh, snap! Yeah,
I can't get it.
that is a picture of. A
If it
mirror.
was a song, you'd hear the end first and it would go backwards, right? Am I understanding the general concept of this?
that is also like an interesting way of describing that circuity the beginning and an end of a song, putting it in reverse. I mean, these are fun things to think about, and fascinating that at least at this level they were able to describe the new way of understanding, or at least interacting with time, in such a way that it totally breaks down this linearity of what we at our base level experience are familiar with. In fact, what we are familiar with is not at all the way time actually is. We can look at the backside of our heads if we try hard enough in time.
It's pretty interesting, the idea that you could actually record what happened from the beginning, because then you would be able to play it back. I think is also the idea. So we talked earlier, or at some point, about femto technology, that you could print an entire moment. If you could record the moment the way it happened, this would be the way to capture all that data, so you could arrange particles the way you wanted them to be, to have a reset.
Right, like time is just it's multiple dimensional. It's like there's the linear time that we exist in this third dimensional realm, and then there's this higher full space time that is the past, future, and present all in one.
Time is a state of matter: solid, liquid, gas, plasma. Time. That's what I believe. I'm pretty convinced. Really? Yeah, I think so.
The Tao of Frankie's posting a link to this Russian experiment, his spiral spinning mirror that supposedly compressed space-time. It's pretty fascinating stuff. But we should have Jeremiah on for that.
No worries. Gunwoo's back. What's up, Gunwoo? We were just looking at space-time, talking about the idea that maybe time is a state of matter. And then we looked at this article talking about being able to record time from... and look at it from behind, basically. So you could,
the possibility that time is a physical thing.
So that's my thought. I like the idea that time is an arrangement of matter, and that scientists demonstrate reflections of electromagnetic waves, so they can actually record a moment the way it starts, and then they can play it back, essentially, so they can see the beginning of that from the end.
Interesting. So that would mean that like time travel is possible.
I mean, kind of. Or that you could create that moment again, because you could create exactly the set of principal matter arrangements that set course to create this moment.
So what's this relation to the ether?
So that's another question, right? So like if you then could seed ether somewhere else to have the same starting point, then you could create a moment in exactly the same way that you were living in. So you just copy that moment using new ether or a different part of the ether.
Right? Like it's higher dimensional, so it's almost too complex for the average third dimensional consciousness to comprehend. You kind of have to like get yourself out of body and connect to source to be able to fully comprehend.
Well, that's a good question though. Also,
Interstellar. I mean, what did you guys think about that depiction of the higher dimensions where time was kind of spread out a little bit? That I thought was a nice introduction to considering how time exists at other dimensional.
I like the concept that time is just instances, and it's the visual, the way they explained how he's choosing the instances with the kind of, MCS
in space. He was thinking,
I didn't like that, but I understand they had to do something visual to represent
he have to go through a wormhole to get there, and then he ended up the end of the wormhole was like at his daughter's.
It's a black hole,
like behind a bookshelf or some weird shit.
Right, exactly. So that's their visual representation of. But that's my conception of time. Is it's not a time is not in my mind. It's not a physical.
So if the black hole takes something in and spits it out, it has to, by theory or law, then have to create a wormhole to spit you out the other side. So it's like our modern understanding of black holes claims it's this dense little piece of matter that sucks everything in and destroys it.
Yeah.
Where if it's actually spitting stuff out, then it will have to have a wormhole in the center of it.
Yeah, no, only even Stephen Hawking's on his deathbed recanted his own black hole thing. That was his whole life's work. And he's like, oh, Disney had it right in the movie. You come in one end and go out the other. Like he switched it up on his deathbed and was like, I was wrong the whole time. Everyone else who guessed what a black hole is like a portal, they were right. It's probably that. But what I was saying is, however you represent it visually, like for a movie, is difficult. But that is my conception of time: is that time is a conscious experience of moving from instance to instance, exercising will, but that the instances all exist statically.
I feel like there's certain kinds of moments that are also more crazy, so you can connect them to more points. So, like, let's say you're an astronaut in some weird circumstance. There's probably fewer and then therefore more places that can jump off to, because it's just the likelihood of your choices limiting you that's kind of thrown out because now you're in this whole new circumstance. But also, that's what you think about. What do you think about ether? Because Gunwu, you brought that up, and I think it's interesting because we talked about the fourth state of matter, but ether is a state. It is not a state of matter. Ether is matter, right? Or how would you look at ether? What do you look at that?
Sorry, I just quickly want to say that plasma is the fourth state, and that ether would essentially be this fifth state, and it could be energy in matter.
You think, I think it could be a state, or do you think it's kind of like in the idea that salt, there's water, fire, earth, air, and ether. It's a element. It's kind of itself.
Honestly, I can't elaborate because science is not my forte. I'm more of a history guy.
I mean, ether's not really. Scientists have rejected ether.
So it was an accepted scientific concept until the 20th century.
I think ether is electric pathways, and consciousness is electricity, and ether is the pathways that it travels on, and a lot of information can be like residue can be left in there from the future and from the past. So when your mind is free to move about the ether, you might discover, things that don't exist yet.
My only understanding of the ether comes from stolen history.
Hold on, wait. Gunwu, what do you say?
Oh, I was quickly saying that my understanding of ether only comes from the stolenhistory.org.
Well, I mean, when you say that, what do you think ether is then? Because it's not like a state of matter; it's its own kind of matter. It's the thing that fills up. We've replaced ether with maybe dark matter, or with the idea of a vacuum, right? In space, there's supposed to be nothing right now. There's supposed to be no ether, right? But I
feel like ether is an extension of the primordial ocean, and it's essentially what gravity is supposed to be.
Yeah, right. That's a good way of looking at it. And that ether would be either absent of space-time existing simultaneously in this higher dimension that connects everything, or it would be like the fractal energy coming out of space-time into physical manifestation.
Ether is an interesting thing. I look at the Michelson-Morley experiment because so many people just say, okay, let's just throw away ether because of the Michelson-Morley experiment. Most scientists just point to this and say that's the reason that they don't look into it. But it's such a flawed experiment. And actually, if anything, it seems to prove that ether does exist and that we have difficulty detecting it, which also led to our study of dark matter.
Doesn't hundredth monkey experiment prove the existence of ether? Basically, that information is able to travel from consciousness to consciousness across great gaps of space without any vehicle or without any material to move across.
Can't you huff some ether? Isn't that pretty fun?
Wait, feels so good for 30 straight minutes after I huff my ether.
We know there is something like an ether because ideas exist in it. And we're able to retrieve
the whole concept of collective memory within many animal groups.
Sure, archaic records. To me, all that stuff exists in the ether, and the ether is I don't know if it's a material or not. I never even thought about it really as an element or a state of matter, but that it
seems like it kind of has to be because that's connected to energy. Somehow it's connected to the idea of energy.
But there are things here that aren't connected to anything physical, So that's also a possibility.
The empirical scientific institutions are now entertaining the idea of blood memory. But for the longest time, we've observed collective memory within animals, and this is a scientific fact. But to deny the ether is ridiculous in that case. Yeah. If what you just said, the collective consciousness does exist.
Well, ether could be in the blood for all we know. We don't know where it is or what it is. Maybe someone here does. I don't. But we know that it exists because we utilize it all the time.
If ether's in the blood, that would make it plasma, then, wouldn't it?
That's funny. Blood is plasma. Yeah, true.
I mean, isn't ether just what they would refer to as space before, modern science and all that shit?
Except that, you can't. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
You can't reach into space and retrieve ideas. You know what I mean? Right.
So the Michelson-Morley experiment's interesting because if I can just figure out how to do it without destroying.
But you guys know the 100 monkey experiment, right? You guys know what I'm talking about because that's super relevant to this. I assume everyone knows this one. Is
right.
Yes. Where you bang 100 monkeys and hope you don't get AIDS.
Exactly.
All right, you guys get it.
So the Michelson-Morley experiment, they tried to prove that the light speed was changed through the ether. And so they said the results were negative. And so they said there was no significant difference between the speed of light and the direction of movement through the presumed ether. And therefore it didn't exist. It was kind of their goal of saying this, because if you put light through water or through other materials, they're able to test for it. And so this is their way. This is, it's kind of a silly test. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's not the way that you really test for trying to figure out how ether does affect something, if it does exist. And you're not able to experience it because it's so friggin' far away, or it's all around you. So it's really confusing as a philosophical concept, let alone as a scientific object, right?
I mean, majority of scientific models based on empirical evidence is completely flawed. Mainly to enforce the industrial revolution and whatnot. I mean, concerning the fact that evolutionism is an adaptation or an emulation of transhumanism, transcendentalism combined, due to the Origin of Species. Oh, yeah. So Charles Darwin wrote his book Origin of Species in Alice Bailey's house, which had heavy theosophic influences, which is where the whole idea of transcendentalism.
Right. At the same time that Blavatsky was going around doing a boat trip, looking at the same islands and birds.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah.
And like every other Neanderthal primitive human model, like the pit down man, has been has come forward to be all forgeries and whatnot.
Well, and you even had Darwin himself saying, "Hey, listen, I kind of think you guys took my information and ran with it."
Yeah.
I was saying at the end of it, it's the ones that were most flexible and ready to like change with the environment that's going to keep on going. Y'all were doing survival of the fittest shit to fit your capitalists, whatever. Okay. I can't remember who the gentleman was. Gentleman is a nice term, that took his information and ran with it and warped it. How we understand Darwin now as evolution being the strongest will survive is not at all what Darwin was trying to get across in his original information.
They got similar to like Hegel and German idealism. They got Darwinism and turned into eugenics.
Yes.
I mean, but then again, to be fair, within the book of Origin Species, the second title is literally the survival of the favored species.
Favored, but not best.
But
so you're right. You're
simultaneously, or not simultaneously, but like 100 years later, you have Teilhard Chardin's phenomenon of man, and it goes into the idea of how selective conscious evolution is taking place through the choices that species and persons are making. And it's not just freak mutations or accidents, and that there's a lot of choice that's being made. And it's interesting because this is really where a lot of transhumanists pick up, because Julian Huxley presented this as the way towards the singularity, or towards the omega point. At the point they were calling it the omega point, but they were saying you can control your evolution, and that's been what's been going on. So in the 50s, particularly, the way we started looking at it was, okay, we're here, we're going forward. Let's use that to reflect where we've been and try to describe the past of evolution the way we're trying to move forward. And in the future, maybe things will be different. But in the 20th century, you have a lot of economic chaos. Is there a good picture for this? You got people that are voting for the wrong reasons, marrying for the wrong reasons, not necessarily for love or for socioeconomic reasons, whatever the issue is. And so it's completely thrown off people making conscious decisions, because they're under the spell of having to make the decision that is best for them in the short-term cycle of fear. And so this provokes stick and carrot game, which is actually driving evolution, because it's deciding who can breed with each other or who can't breed at all, because they become involuntarily celibate, right? And so the entire world, or maybe they're told, you don't want to have a child until you're 30 or 40, or you never want to have a child, and then they realize later that they do. So all of these things are compelling the idiocracy or whatever is being developed through, social control. And that doesn't need to happen, because people could choose to be building what they want to see in the world through their families and what children that they create. But that's taken away, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, the large majority of people wouldn't be opting into steering evolution in the first place or understanding what you're talking about. So,
but that's all it is. Like, you pick someone to be with and you have a child, you're participating in biological progression of a species.
absentmindedly though, not with that goal in end, right? But there are people who.
But that's what's going on. People are not because people don't have that goal in end, because they have to have the goal in end of, I have to live in this town. I should, only be whatever it is. There's all these limits that we've found that are making that not the focus point of your existence.
Yeah,
but
the
your focus point
of your existence is being a slave to a corporation.
Shouldn't it be? Yeah, you're transitioning between the life. You're transitioning the breath that was birthed into you into the world as you die. Like you're inhaling and exhaling this giant life, and then
absolutely. But also, this is this whole realm is about choices and challenges. Time is about your choices and the ramifications of them. So, I mean, everything that exists here, animals are constantly competing with drama and not able to reach their full potential, just like humans are constantly limited by, the need for resources and the structure of society, so that we're not able on individual levels usually to be able to actualize our potential. But then you have people like the WEF people who were kind of like, we don't like them, like Noah Yuval Harari, who has been talking for years about Homo evolutus and how he's part of a class of people who are leaving behind Homo sapien to become Homo evolutus, where they're actively participating in the evolution of the species. So if you believe that was possible and you had the resources to do it, the question is, would you, or, would you opt out? And if you opted in, what would you do?
So would you like to be a part of our evolutionary club today? Yeah.
So how do you avoid it? The only way you avoid it. So this is also interesting when you look at the celibacy of priesthoods and nuns, right? So you force these people after the second and third Council of Carthage. Now these conquered people, they're going to become nuns. So you make sure that none of them breed, or if they do, that all of the kids are bastards. So you can completely control the population. And similarly force the men in that region who used to maybe be like imams, where your father and son are priests. It's part of the system. It's like that is for most other, the Orthodox, And so they're saying, no, here we're going to make sure that you can't. So it's been a major system to stop people from participating in the future. And that, maybe some people think that's great, but imagine, you have tons of people that used to be tribes, and all of a sudden they're not able to be part of the next generation. I mean, they're wiped out. That's a kind of ethnocide.
Yeah, that's like the whole concept behind the orphan trains and like destruction of monarchies leading up to the republic multiculturalism efforts that we're seeing now, where like you have all these people that, claiming to be descendants of royal families and whatnot, but they're just regular middle class people.
You know how I view it? These kinds of masters of the universe is like they're so into the game, but it is a game, and like you can get so into chess, you know what I mean, and become like a chess master. But outside the chessboard is a whole other bigger game of chess that you're ignoring. You know what I mean? So you can focus as hard as you want on steering human evolution, but there's a spiritual evolution that's been described for thousands of years. That if you're focusing on the game, you're not even playing. You're opting out of the all-encompassing game.
Yeah, why is Pink Trip laughing?
I don't know. I keep looking at Mr. Douglas and just I don't know. It cracks me up, dude. What he sits there just looking kind of. He doesn't make any expression. He just kind of looks down to the left.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I feel that sometimes the information we talk about, like on these streams, are so overwhelming. Just like
I was thinking about the coinage act because you brought it up earlier. Also,
yeah.
No, I mean, well, this makes sense because if you think about how America conquered tribes, you had the 5 tribes, and they took their wealth, and you have the Spanish as well, and they kind of consolidated their power. They started to completely control all of these tribes. And the whole point Andrew Jackson wanted to do was the Trail of Tears, right? You want to get all the native tribes territory because they were nomadic, and so once they left for the season, they would move in, they would build a bunch of things, and they would not be able to get their property back. So it was a major push to control all of the territory of the United States.
Also the Coinage Act of 1857. So America ran on a nationalized bank,
right?
And like they didn't have a standardized currency system because due to, I believe, Article 8 of the Constitution allowed every state to print their own currency. I could be misquoting, but
right. No, originally.
Yeah, and then like the pretty much the Coinage Act of 1857 completely nullified all of that. It's in favor of a standardized currency, which is the whole reason why these plantation owners revolted, because it nullified majority of their wealth, because the majority of their wealth reserves were in either foreign coinage or state
or local
currency.
state currencies.
Yeah,
right?
which the Coinage Act of 1857 completely nullified.
Right. So you had like thousands of dollars owed to you, which, at the time, thousands of dollars in the 17th century or 18th century was a lot. Just completely wiped out the former economy, which is crazy. Total reset.
And yet people believe the war was about slavery. It's like it's so funny. Like every war that America has been involved in was specifically for economic freedom.
Do you think Abraham Lincoln was a dictator?
Sure.
Yeah, actually, some of the stuff that he did. Yeah, all the Irish immigrants that came to America during this time, as soon as they set their foot, they were given an ultimatum whether they'd be deported or be conscripted into the Union Army, which is very inhumane in my perspective.
A lot of people think that was the beginning of the slippery slope of federal power getting out of control.
Yeah. For sure. Like
look where we are now, boys.
I think it was.
What about the Whiskey Rebellion, like 150 years before that?
George Washington Masonic hand! Look at that shit.
Right. The Pinkertons took over in the Lincoln campaign, and they arrested people who voted for other candidates than Lincoln. They said they were polluting the ballot box. We've talked about that. And he suspended habeas corpus. Yeah, he was a total dictator. But I don't know if he was the slippery slope. I think he was the culminating step, because at that point they usurped the former states into a federal government, right? So that at that point the United States was no longer the United States, it was America, right? It was the federal government of America.
It's also sort of like debating who knocked down the sandcastle or weakened the sandcastle, where it's like, why did we build a sandcastle and expect it to last a long time, which is kind of like our system of government and our constitution.
Was Abraham Lincoln a homosexual? Nothing wrong with it, by the way.
He was married to a lady named Todd.
I've heard of it. Not the first time I heard.
His wife was named Todd.
He had private wrestling matches in his.
Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. Just wondering if he was.
He was not the only president too that has been considered as such. I can't remember who the other one was, but
Obama.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Boom. Very nice.
Yeah, the whole conspiracy that Michelle Obama is actually a transgender.
Yeah.
Right. That is just for the censors. That is the conspiracy on the internet. That weird TikTok.
But it is very convincing. Not
right.
To
some people. Right. Of course.
Can't
anyway,
find
Cyrus
T.
Have you guys heard of Cyrus T? Do you know what I'm talking about? You know what this is?
Who is Cyrus T?
So where the Scientologists are at, where Ford was concerned with reincarnation and went to see T, Cyrus called himself Koresh.
So this is where Koresh comes from? Holy shit.
Yeah. So Koresh is this idea that we're living inside of this kind of earth that's hollow, but we're looking out and we're actually on the crust on the outside, staring at space, which is at the core on the inside.
Did the Branch Davidians also, like, during the time of the Waco siege, they also believe this?
Yeah, I mean, so what's weird is this is actually far more common of an ancient tradition, and a lot of Polynesian faiths also have this idea. There's some shamans, the Quechua have an idea like this as well, that we're living on the inside, and it has to do with the firmament as well. Why we can't cross it. But then also some people have talked about with transhumanism or with simulation theory that you could have a higher resolution center. So it would be denser also as you go denser, which is what science likes to say. Okay, well, it must be the super dense black sun core at the center of our Earth. But then that would be all of space as well. So this was a religion that was very popular in the 19th century. In fact, lots of people moved to Florida from New York and around to join this hollow Earth cosmology.
So this is the start of Floridian occultism?
Well, that's a great question, because the thing about Floridian occultism is it just goes back forever. I mean,
yeah.
It's the stereotype about Florida. I mean, there's a couple. Don't get me wrong, but
I gotta get to Florida, man.
Yeah, I mean, the idea
that
Florida is where Atlantis was, and there's a lot of these. We gotta get Dr. Longo at some point, and unfortunately, he doesn't easily have Wednesdays off.
The state of Florida is where Atlantis was.
Yeah, Atlantis, Florida.
I thought it was in the
reshot structure, right? Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So he's got a lot of really good stuff. I wish I could find.
Eye of the Sahara, or whatever.
Yeah, like how there was multiple Jerusalems, I think there was multiple Atlantises. It's possible.
Yeah, there's tons of
migrations.
There's probably more things we've lost that have gone underwater than we could ever imagine.
So there's these super. You like which one? Yandex? Yeah, I should get back on Yandex. But
Yandex, that's what those dirty Russians use.
Right, exactly. so now you've got
Are you a Russian sympathizer? What are we going to get Russian sympathizers in here? Dude?
We will talk about the index this evening. Yes.
This is a stone anchor, and there's tons of these giant stone anchors. There's some like they equate with biblical history.
Oh wow!
In Florida?
And they have them in Florida, right? So they find them in Turkey, right around the Mount Ararat, and then they also find them in Florida. There's a couple of places around the world where these super giant stone anchors are. And they've tried to say, okay, well, some of them maybe there was a shellfish that just ate through the rock because it's just so freaking big that it's hard to imagine how it's possible other than, looking at the history of Florida. There were these giant, the natives who lived in Florida were far taller than the conquistadors who arrived there by like a foot. And then they met giants. They had their own giants who were even like, there's like a 9-foot tall guy and like a 15-foot tall guy. So there's a lot of really large people that they met when they got to Florida. And then Florida is also connected to the, Ponce de Leon Fountain of Youth story. So they could find immortality there. So that's another reason that Ford was so interested in getting to Florida. So I don't know if you could say it was like the beginning of Florida cults, but it's definitely there, in the 19th century. It's like it was the first like utopia community cult to go to Florida. I'll give you that.
Very interesting. So it's like a crust, and we're with inverted Earth.
It's like Elysium.
So how are we not burnt up from the proximity of the sun?
Yeah, where's the sun in all this?
Yeah, they're itty bitty, man. They're just, I think it's inside of this space dome or something.
Just hanging out.
Close. I don't know. All these stars and some, like it looks like the lines that are going across. There's probably a few. Let me see if you can find the Koresh model. Koresh model. Let's see here.
I would be that guy in the crowd. Hey, Koresh, what about the sun? Hey, Koresh.
Yeah, this is gonna be a hard one to Google right here.
Koresh.
Definitely on the watch list.
Koresh Hollow Earth, something like that.
There we go.
Okay, so you think there's the sun in the heavens, right?
So what's outside the crust? I wonder.
Right. So that's kind of crazy. So if you go deeper, then you get out. So that also explains the idea that a lot of the extraterrestrials would be coming from under Earth, subterranean dwellings, right?
You don't believe this, do you? Is this your new thing, Andreas? is this how you think everything really works?
I genuinely do believe that the planet is hollow, though, because every other planet in our solar system is hollow.
Look at thermal energy. Hollow Earth. I'm fully hollow Earth, but
are you full on hollow Earth? Are you cavernous Earth?
I'm not even full on planet.
Shambhala,
like cavernous Earth, but some Shambhala.
Like hollow Easter egg.
Yeah,
hollow?
I'm definitely convinced Shambhala as well. Like Gartha Shambhala because of the whole Rorik expedition.
All right.
Have you talked about the Rorik expedition in your streams yet?
How do you spell that? No.
Roerich.
Rorik.
No, not A. R-O.
What happened?
R-O.
Rorik expedition.
It's a good name.
All right. And then what happened? He went to
so like
everybody Russian dude? Oh yeah.
Everybody is like memory hold about this topic. Like it's just like like the whole film of Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade, like how the Nazis were looking for the Ark of the Covenant. Yeah, that shit was real. Like the Nazis, the SS, and the United States and the Soviet Union had a race in the 30s, like an arms race in the 30s to find esoteric weapons, and nobody knows about this for some reason. But so the Rorik expedition is like one of the strongest evidence we have of an inner Earth or Shambhala, mainly because it was like a presidentially sponsored expedition to find it, and apparently he did, and after his mission was successful, he came up with this thing called the Rorik Pact. So initially people were trying to look. So the SS in the United States were trying to look for the super weapon mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita and trying to figure out its legitimacy. And so then the SS was in Tibet, but the Rorik group ended up in Inner Mongolia, so they ended up actually finding it. They come up with this thing called a Rorik Pact, telling the United States, hey, we need to make an agreement that we don't attack cultural sites in this upcoming war that they, premeditated. So this kind of ties into my own personal theory. It's pretty out there, but the fact is the idea that the nuclear weapons that we have today were reverse engineered from what Nicholas Rorik found in Shambhala. If you want like a too long didn't read version of this, I highly recommend watching Mr. Mythos' video on this, where he also describes the part where like they were trying to look for nuclear weapons, or like whatever these super weapons were in Shambhala. But like the Shambhalis people, their lore specifically was to like create this, or it was to like stay dormant until the end of days came, when the final war, the world of worlds, happened, so they can like when they would come out from their dwelling and to actually like defeat the Antichrist or something like that. Fairly syncretic to the Book of Revelations.
Right, and also but oppositional, because we're taught. Okay, so remind us, the Bible is telling that Titans have been kept underground for 1,000 years with Lucifer or something like that, and that they're evil, and that when they come out, they have to be defeated again. But here it is, we're trying to come out and defeat the Antichrist in 1,000 years. We're waiting 1,000 years, and then when we get out, we're supposed to be the good guys.
Right.
So it's two sides of the story there.
Good point.
I don't know.
It's like
it's like the Spider-Man's pointing.
Yeah, information on this stuff is very few and far between. But it remains the only like official presidentially sponsored expedition to actually find this place. Meaning like our government cabinet found enough legitimacy to actually put money and to find this place, which is the craziest thing to me.
CIA Shambhala Library. Let me see if I can pull up anything there.
I don't know if this has anything else to do with well, John Quincy Adams was obsessed with Hollow Earth and was very interested in trying to figure out whether or not we could get there. He tried also to try and find a way to
That's so funny. I fully forgot
so
that. Crazy. And the guy,
like,
John Quincy Adams.
So many people throughout history before like the 20th century believed in the Hollow Earth.
Well, but John Quincy Adams is an interesting point, because he traveled as a youth around Europe and the world, and he took trips to all of these places, and that was one of the reasons he was so fascinated by caverns and tunnels and things, because there's all these crazy tunnels off the coast, these crazy island tunnels especially. So he was, but yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, you picked it up right where I was laying it down. That was perfect. He was very interested. He tried to get Congress, and I don't know if he did or not, but he tried to get Congress to fund an expedition to find Hollow Earth through either Antarctica or the Arctic. I can't recall.
So to balance off on this whole idea of John Quincy Adams being obsessed with caves, my whole like theory on evolution, or like cave people, were the fact that like they hid in cave. Well, yeah, when the whole like flamenco catastrophe happened, people were forced to hide in caves and to restart humanity to this rudimentary, primitive, it's very primitive lifestyle. And
level one, start again.
The shit we're finding, like all these like arrowheads and whatnot, like are like remnants of that, instead of actually being Neanderthals or whatever the hell we attribute it to.
It's funny. Robert Perry is a liar. Frederick Cook probably actually got to the North Pole, but maybe not. Probably only like 200 miles from it, or maybe like 50 to 80 miles from it, unless he actually reached it. So we've just been going with the, what's it called? The Explorers Club. There was like a point where Cook was having a party at the Explorers Club, and then Perry showed up at the party, and then people said, hey, you know what? It's cool that we're having a party for Cook and all this stuff, but we should talk more about Perry and how cool Perry is. And that like pissed off Cook. And then Perry went, and then he got up, took a fake photo of himself near Mount Denali, and then posted that to them and said, this is me at the North Pole, and convinced everybody, A, that he'd been to the tallest mountain in Alaska, Denali, which he hadn't, but then B, that he'd gone to the North Pole. And so everyone just sort of took it for granted and just believed it. And that's just never, who needed to go after that? So it's weird. We talk about the North Pole like it's just, okay, we've been there, done that. And now the North Pole is supposed to be, what's it called? Like the trade?
Off limits, basically, right?
They're about to open it in Alaska. So Antarctica is supposed to be closed, but the North Pole they're opening. They want to have.
Wait, they're actually opening it?
They want to do a Russian trade. So Russia's got all of this, and then so right through the North Pole, this would just be the most ideal trade network, and that's going to happen in the next 10 years, probably now. It was already supposed to happen if it weren't for all of this international disputing going on, but Brickus is going to do it. There's no way it's going to take more than 10 years, probably 3 to 5. We're going to start seeing, and already I think there are boats that are taking this trade route. What's it called again? The North Pole shipping route.
Santa Claus is going to be pissed.
On a side note, when you're looking this up, like I wanted to mention, this is we're talking about the Arctic, but I want to talk about Antarctica. I found out the whole reason why Hitler had infrastructure in Argentina is because Argentina is the sole authority to travel to Antarctica.
Correct, right. Well, not the sole authority, but so Antarctica, how do you see that? The map of countries, nations that control it. Here you go. So when you look at it, you've got Chile.
Other nations like have a stake in the Antarctic continent itself, but to travel to Antarctica itself, you need permission from the Argentinian government.
You got to go through Argentina.
Yeah.
Oh, that is interesting. I didn't think about that. Okay, that makes sense. If you want to get to Orcadas, if you want to get from Orcadas, if you get from
you have to go to the Argentinian government to have access to
Ushuaia. Is that what it's called? Ushuaia, I think, down in the south. So you go to Ushuaia, and then you can get to Victoria.
And that's the whole reason why the Nazis had infrastructure in Antarctica to begin with. They premeditated New Schwaben land and then try to reach Hollow Earth through Vril Domins and whatnot.
Have you guys heard of Giant Dick Earth?
No, what's Giant Dick? This new theory.
I'm not gonna look it up.
The Earth is shaped like a giant dick. The Earth is shaped like a giant dick, and it's just coming its way through space. That's actually what creates gravity.
Wow.
The energy.
I think what you're talking about is panspermia.
The push off of the. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. That's fair.
I mean, how everything is Earth going to propel itself around the sun?
Makes sense.
It is pretty crazy when you look at Quincy Adams. I mean,
the stars are all the.
He literally was trying to get to the whole North Pole.
Shots.
And Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson stopped the expedition, right? And so there's this story about what's his name, Davy Crockett, that he went up to the North Pole because things were starting to slow down and things were getting colder. And so he had to go up there and he had to start the world again, started spinning like the Axis Mundi or the Yggdrasil. Had to start whatever it is to get it moving again. And that's, I find interesting because it's not too far different in time when they were trying to say, okay, let's not do the expedition because it would be crazy, he thought.
Also, when I've read The Origin of Species, this is completely off topic too as well. When I read The Origin of Species, my whole understanding of the premise is if you control the environment, you get to pick and choose who lives and who prospers, which is essentially the premise of the Industrial Revolution.
Stefan has a brilliant comment. Vice spent all of their money on XIRTUS Hollow Earth featurette, which he's got a good point. If you haven't seen that, you might as well, because I don't know, now that Vice TV is bankrupt, what is it? Hollow Earth Vice. If you go look that up on Odyssey, hopefully
is this really your work?
Yeah, you didn't see this? Yeah, so
I didn't know about this.
So Vice produced this episode. They called and they said, "Do you believe in the Hollow Earth?" Or I forget how it happened, but basically they said we want to do a special about the Hollow Earth, and it'd be really great if you would do it. And so they
you're featured in this?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
There he is.
I had no idea.
This is Andreas Curtis in the Hollow Earth.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I don't know why, but I believe in aliens all of a sudden.
I have to watch
I've got to watch this.
I know you've never seen this. Yeah, it's pretty great. Look,
Wait,
that
what
picture.
year was this? I followed Vice very closely. I've never.
Did they know you worked at NASA?
Yeah, I think it comes up, and then also.
Wow.
Wait, was this last year?
Yeah, they avoided talking about a lot of the stuff I had been doing other than this recently. I think because they were trying to make a show that was like 12 episodes, and that was one of the episodes. But
this is only 1 year ago.
Yeah, this isn't that long ago, right?
Dude, you look much better now. You've really gotten much more handsome in 1 year.
Once I left Tim Pool's, I feel like I got healthier.
What was he feeding you there, bro?
You've seen the videos, right? There were donut hamburgers. It was pretty crazy. Yeah, I can say that, I think. God. But I mean, yeah, so they did that. I think I recommend it. So if you wanted to see that, you can go to Odyssey and you type in Hollow Earth.
You never told me about this, that you were going to be on Vice.
I thought you guys knew. I don't know.
I would have popped in and be like, what's that?
Yeah. We got to do a special episode. We're all going to watch this next week. We're all coming back. We're going to do a special episode.
Watch along.
We are going to deconstruct.
It was expensive. I mean, they flew us around. They took us to a cave. So we were gonna go to a cave, and then
wait, who's the lady? Is that your
that's
mother?
my mom. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's your mom.
That whole thing. So we were supposed to go to this cave. We got there, like the government said that you can go as deep as you want, deeper than anyone's ever gone. And then there was this crazy fire at Shasta, right where all of the myths say the entrance to Hollow Earth is. So we had to divert, and we found this other place that actually seemed probably better.
Oh, how coincidental.
Well, I mean, it was crazy. It was the biggest fire that ever happened in Shasta, and they're like, I don't know if anyone's ever going to be allowed to go back there.
Yeah, like I said, how coincidental. Like we
Yeah.
have all these like incidents of direct energy weapons being used all across the world, causing mass fires and whatnot. Yeah.
And so the other weird thing is we were in Andreas and the Tartarian.
Let's go.
Yeah, so they had like remote. We had a remote viewer. Julia was doing the remote viewing, and so that was the other weird thing was. So she said we're supposed to go to this place. We get the place. We get the permits to go to the place that she remote views. And then once they get the permits for it, and right after she does the remote viewing, she's like, I don't know, something weird. Like they are upset that we're coming. I don't know what she said exactly, but it was off camera to me. And then there was this crazy fire there, and I was like, well, okay, well that's at very least like director's commentary fan service. Like I can enjoy that. Like I don't know if anyone's gonna believe that woo, but for me that felt weird. I was like, why? And whether it was that Hollow Earth space demon aliens were blocking us from entering, or if a dew had hit us,
Rothschilds.
or if it's just chaos. I think that's pretty brutal, right?
It's the Rothschilds. It always is.
Yeah. Bernie, what's up, buddy? How's it going?
I figured I should drop back in before you end it.
Yeah, no,
Great
I mean,
show today, by the way.
I still kind of stuck on that subject of the U.S. expedition to the Inner Earth Kingdom and just why we stopped it. And just, it seems like the Andrew Jackson comes up more and more as this like terrifying figure that's weirdly popular, but seems like a crazy psychopath.
Well, why was Admiral Byrd so popular and trusted and everything, and then claims he went into Inner Earth and all of a sudden went to a sane asylum? And what about the crazy UFO encounter over the White House literally after he came back from Operation High Jump?
Yeah, it's also interesting. Do you think that his idea is like the North Pole and the South Pole have similar entrances? I mean, do you think that that's true? Or I mean, they seem like they're different things, right?
Have you seen the Nazi map of Inner Earth?
Nazi map, Inner Earth.
I mainly go by that model because it's pretty much like the most detailed map that we have.
Where do I go to find the Nazi map, the Inner Earth?
I'm pretty sure. I mean, you're looking at it, but like, there's so many like reposts out there that like it's. I mean, not that, but like
that's pretty neat looking though. I like whatever.
I don't know about what this is, but like the map is that. Yeah, pretty much.
Liberia. So this isn't Liberia supposed to be like Africa or what? Right?
Yeah. So they have multiple maps. Like, let me try to find the original.
Yeah, look up SS or Third Reich or just German World War II Inner Earth maps. That should come up.
Yeah, you need better keywords.
It's got Agartha definitely listed in it.
Mm-hmm. Liberia is one of the other continents that's supposedly in Inner Earth.
Oh, okay. So like the African one is New Liberia?
I guess so.
The more Koresh Teed stuff though. That's pretty good.
Right there. Yeah, look at that. The cosmos is inside, huh?
That's pretty interesting. I don't know,
it's a better usage of space than just putting a bunch of magma and iron inside, and then all of the sun and stars are all just.
One of these weeks, we're gonna get Mark really like gung ho on one of the theories. He's like, "Oh yeah, no, this one, yeah," and then next week, he'll be like, "What? You guys don't believe that one anymore?"
What is XIRTUS?
Yeah, well,
first time I'm hearing about this.
What do you say? XIRTUS?
What is XIRTUS? What are we looking at here?
I wonder.
Oh, did you just randomly click on this?
I just want a pet dinosaur. If it's in Inner Earth or Outer Earth or cloned, I don't care. Just get me my little dino.
I believe there's a few surviving in Africa. I have heard of encounters as of recent as 2013 in Africa.
They're called birds. Just get a bird.
It's of the Warlords comic.
I had pet parrots as a kid, and I swear I encountered a thunderbird or petrodactyl or dragon or something insane flying over at 3:30 in the morning when I was in Drumheller, Alberta, where there's the world famous Royal Tyrrell Dinosaur Museum. I was staying at a friend's place. I went out for a smoke. It flew by so fast. It was so high up. It blocked out the moon. I had my laser pointer on me. I tagged it with the laser pointer. It instantly dove down. And even now, telling the story again, I get the shivers on my back because I was prey and that thing was freaking hunting me.
Whoa!
Wow.
I'm happy you survived. That's wild.
It could happen to anybody. What about these tunnels? I mean, so we look at Turkey and we see the world. It's this idea of these tunnels that we're in, and there's maybe it's a pathway to connect us to this much deeper, bigger. We say cavernous Earth. I'm thinking, yeah, probably bigger. Like there's a giant hollow space there, or something.
Multiple layers, multiple civilizations. Who knows, man? It's a party down there. We're not invited.
I had the original map downloaded at one point. So frustrating.
Oh, what's that book? That's cool.
Which one? This is Hollow Earth: A Long and Curious History of Imagining Strange Lands by David Standish. Looks good. Map of the interior world. There's also, I don't know what this one is, but it does seem Scandinavian, right? Or is this not?
I think that's one of the German maps or like infos about it. A whole bunch of it came out after the fall of the Soviet Union.
Is it written in Greek? What is that language?
Yeah, I look Greek.
That looks like a matter and antimatter thing. Everything's reversed on one.
Although I see the runes too, so it looks like runes. It doesn't look like full Greek, but that's Greek. There's a lot of Greek symbols here.
Yeah.
Big owls are connected to alien abductions, or do big owls just abduct and eat people?
Giant owls were a problem at one point. Not recently, though. I don't know. Also, the volcano connection. I want to look more into that, just because it seems like Vesuvius and the idea of Hollow Earth. Maybe these volcanoes are somehow connected to the Hollow Earth theory, right? Like Dr. Evil.
I'm very much convinced that volcanoes are actually spoil tips. Because I used to live next to a granite mine, and then
Or what?
The spoil tips.
Oh, what?
From mining.
From mining, yeah. The volcanoes are spoil tips. There is an actual
David Ewing Jr. did a whole episode about that with
multiple people have.
XIRTUS.
I believe Paula Cook as well.
He was saying the pyramids are spoil tips of mining. That's what it was.
Pyramids, no, but spoil tips look more like
look at that, right?
Oh, you got to debate David Ewing Jr.
Explodes in the middle.
Yeah, no, I've personally talked to David Ewing Jr. on Facebook. We got off on the wrong foot immediately. He just goes off saying that I'm wrong about everything. He's like, dude, I'm like literally backing up his claims. I've read his books, but he's like, hey man, you need to do more research. Like, what do you mean? I've read your books.
Do your own research. Just kidding.
Basically. Well, but also this is, so you just sent me this. What is this?
Yeah.
These are the maps. Okay.
Yes, this is like something I found quickly on Yandex, but
See,
which
so
is
the
why they're
answer
in
is
Russian.
use Yandex, right?
But these are like more higher resolution maps of what was uncovered after the fall of the Soviet Union.
Good job, Russian internet having actual data. Hey.
But one thing that I wanted to talk about earlier when we were talking about the ether, and time being a physical matter. Have you heard about the skull experiments in the UK? The most well documented evidence that the people had. No, it's SCOLE.
Yeah, Charlie C is a part of official member of the skull experiments.
Really?
Now. Yeah, and he actually made a one of the devices that was supposedly
right. Yo, the 7-point theory is so real, man.
Yeah, Charlie made the communicator device that was supposedly given to the skull experiment group by the ghost of Benjamin. Whoever invented the light bulb.
I remember trying to I remember I watched this in high school, and then I was completely convinced of the ether. Like the fact that at one point in the documentary, these ghosts or whatever, these apparitions literally summon old artifacts or personal belongings from the past in pristine condition. During one of these seance sessions, literally a newspaper from the 1930s or whatever just popped out of thin air. Definitely watch a documentary on it. I don't know what this image is, but I don't think this is a skull experiment at all.
Well, they have to make the seance, right? The group, the circle. That something about that circle casting them spells, and Solomon's keys, like you guys were going over at the beginning. One of Solomon's keys has now been proven and recreated to be an actual LED circuit. So they are high advanced technology.
Do you know which one?
Jeremiah's gone over it a few times. I will have to rewatch and show, and we will have to definitely do an episode with Jeremiah who will go deep into explaining all of the higher dimensional anti-gravitic over unity and everything else with it.
Cool.
Oh man, I'm hyped. But yeah, here's the full documentary to the skull experiments. I put it in the group chat.
What do you say, Mark?
I don't know, man. Just be careful with those Twitter DMs, bro.
Oh yeah,
you might not want to put that on the fucking stream, dude.
I never know.
Good thing I wasn't sending you messages about the Jews.
Why? You always say such nice things. Cyborg, the truth about human augmentation. We're at 2 hours. Let me just make sure that they know where they can find your stuff. VBDC.store. Because let's start with the real thing. You want to buy a shirt. You know it. You want to wear it. You want to look good. You want to get a Truther merch. Look at this sweatshirt. It's based right there. VBDC. And also the link tree. Go into the link tree and then you can get a lot of his music videos. He's got some pretty great music videos.
Thank you.
I like to aim it there.
Yep.
Dude, it's pretty based.
Pre-lockdown.
Yeah, I remember.
We're post-lockdown, so we can party again.
Nice. I've been partying, and the album's coming great. Almost done, really, and sent out tracks for live horns and for featured artists and stuff like that. So on track for this summer for a full-length album.
Pretty sweet. And then Mr. Douglas, go to Mr. with a 3, Douglas.com, and you can always look at this amazing picture, which always makes me happy, before clicking on Secrets of Power audiobook, which episode 1's here, but he just completed volume 2. So make sure you get into the vitalization of individual powers, Secrets of Power book 2. Awesome.
Both great reads, both wonderful foundations.
Do you feel more powerful after immersing yourself in?
You look more powerful.
Thank you. It's the jacket and the shirt. I had read these books a year or two ago before, and they had started, a really nice consolidation and shaping of a way of interacting with the world and myself that got rid of a lot of dross, that got rid of a lot of excess, that now I can question more clearly, take the information that I get and assimilate it in a way that I'm able to provide myself fuel to further question at a much more clear and straightforward manner. But the journey is the destination. Enjoy the questioning.
Based. What about Gunwoo? Do you have anything you want to share?
Not really. Sorry.
All right. Just don't even look at this man. Picture makes some amazing videos sometimes. I really liked Tucker Carlson audio leaks are amazing. It's pretty funny.
I gotta watch that.
That was a great video yesterday.
I hope Ping we're gonna do some more. We have to talk a bit about the fact that you can't tell if anything's deep faked anymore. Not just because technology is good.
I think I can tell. I think I still could tell.
What would you say? What's one really good thing to look out for? Like, okay, is this real or not?
The voice is very streamlined and fast paced.
That was what Mark was pointing out. He's like, I can tell from the voice, the punctuation you're saying.
Yeah, it's not very human. It's very streamlined.
Yeah, well, like Tucker Carlson, everybody's saying it was a deep fake. I don't know about the video, but the audio is too good to be deep faked. And then
I think I could do the audio. What you need to do is you need to train it on several different sentences, so that you have a different flow for every instance.
Well, one of the Tucker Carlson audio leaks. Like, what is this about?
Well, he said some funny things, and everyone's like, "Oh man!" He said, "Oh man, that woman
not get him a job at MSNBC." Is basically what's happening.
Why would he want to be on TV again? We could be on the internet. But I think he said, like, I would not call that man's wife a snack.
Dude, the best one is the first one. The best one is the very first one. If you go to the beginning of the video, I think it plays.
Thank you, Simon.
Let me pop it to be in here. Oh, come on.
The very beginning.
Play it. Play it.
Media matters for America. Go yourself.
See, that's what people think is
this real?
Fake.
Well, he might have been like, okay, so what are we going to talk about tonight? And then he's like, you know what? Oh, hey, go F yourself is what we're going to talk about tonight. Okay, and then the show starts and he's all calm.
But it's been recorded.
Because 20% of his job is taking Botox injections in the face, and the other 40% of his job is standing there with his face looking like, how could you be this liberal? I don't understand what you're saying right now.
If you really want to know what he was talking
he's
about,
squinting eyes in contempt, like that is like.
He was preemptively.
That's all it feels like.
The best part is the foppish laugh.
Yeah, that is the best part.
Hey,
I do like.
Wait. Hold on. He was preemptively calling out what? Say that. I'm sorry.
He was predicting that Media Matters was going to get a leak of him, so he was basically. He was predicting what really happened, and jumping the gun and telling Media Matters to go fuck themselves.
Yeah.
You're gonna find this. You're gonna leak this. Here you go. That is
low key. I do believe it, right?
He said some chick was yummy or something. Somebody's girlfriend was yummy.
You know how like there has been like multiple like bloopers of newscasters like doing stuff off camera like before they knew the camera was on.
I
So
mean,
I
you
feel like
drink
it's
a
kind
bunch
of
of
like that.
coffee. You're gonna be on TV. Like they're gonna play a character. Like you gotta imagine they're kind of silly for a minute before the
It's
show.
like our chats before we go live or after we're live, right?
You want to
It's
see what this
they just
guy's doing?
record them.
No, I'm just kidding. Go. What did you just send? You sent another video. Let me see this really quick.
Oh no, yeah, that's the whole that's the full documentary in the skull experiment.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'll put a link to this so you guys can find it in the Discord.
Oh, nice.
And the Vice documentary that you were. Those are my two for this week.
All right,
I'm watching
I'll make
you
sure-
and I'm watching the Skull
Dude, don't go anywhere. The next Wednesday Ultra, we need to just watch that and react to it.
I don't think can you do that? I feel like they would sue. Like
If
TV.
we do
Can
commentary,
do
you have to
reaction
speak
commentary
like
and break
every.
it apart?
You have to speak every 40 seconds.
We could try it. I don't know. Let's give it a shot.
I think you could if you were really good with not playing it too long, constantly interrupting it.
Yeah,
and
have
getting
my
down
lawyer
to
and your lawyer get together and look at this. Let's give it a shot.
It has to be criticism though, so you're gonna be watching it like to criticize it or review.
Oh
it.
yeah, I think
Would you have a
they'll
stake in the IP though, because you're the one that's featured?
No.
No, yeah, no.
It's but here's the thing. I almost didn't want to do it because obviously they're gonna make me look crazy. It's a show about people who look crazy, but I figured, hey, I'm gonna be on TV and like, why not? Plus, they're gonna fly you around and stuff. So, but the thing is, I also figured it's Vice, so we know that's evil. But I also figured Vice is so many levels away from itself now that it's owned by these other people that are running other people. They're hiring non-union people on Craigslist to do that. It's like, so it felt like, and I've said this before, I felt like Obi-Wan Kenobi walking into the Death Star and nobody knew anybody or knew who I was. So it was not that hard to like sneak through because everyone was like, what? Okay. I thought that they were going to all be like, oh, Andreas, you did this or that. And we're going to get you, but I think they were just kind of incoherent as a company and really nice, good people that they hired that weren't Vice that did all the work. Like all the people that were working there, they worked on movies like Black Panther and all this other stuff. And this was a job for them, it was cool.
What you
I
could
feel
do
like you should have
second
pulled
half.
Sam Hyde.
The second half of Woo, you can like move it over to Odyssey or something and be like, hey, come
Yeah,
on.
exactly. The second half, we'll just continue the stream on Odyssey, Rumble, and Twitch.
Have you seen the Sam Hyde iDubbbz documentary? Yeah, I feel like you should have done that with Vice.
I mean, the thought occurred to me.
Yes,
I
the
met
hell out of him.
Sam Hyde always makes it really hard for to work with him or for himself to work ever again. So it's always kind of it's like, but I do think he's brilliant. I'll admit it.
I love Sam Hyde.
Yeah,
I hate iDubbbz though. iDubbbz is
What a
that was a subject we were gonna call this show is that Mark hates iDubbbz. All right.
I just watched iDubbbz reaction video to him kicking that guy off that stupid boxing tournament that he does.
Right. Yeah.
And it was so lame. It's a Yoko Ono situation going on. It's very obvious.
Make sure you guys watch Crypto Alchemist or else. All right.
Thank
I
you.
love you all.
Before
Before
you end it, I quickly have to admit to one shady thing I did back in the day, and that was blocking
going on here, guys?
JG Organics and Joe Cool on your channel, XIRTUS, because of Beegs, and you should definitely unblock them because they are good people, and I'm sorry for that.
How dare you?
They're the only people I did block, and you should unblock them, and shout out to them in the chat, as they are good people.
Everybody, sorry that this happened, and thank you for giving me layers of proxy responsibility. All right, well, help me fix it, mods. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you very much. Everyone,
Andreas is amazing.
Andreas, you're also amazing. You're so amazing. I love you.
The following video contains content some viewers might find disturbing. The views and opinions expressed here are not facts and are nothing more than entertainment. The views and opinions are not facts and do not represent the views and opinions of XIRTUS or our channel, and do not necessarily represent or reflect the views of the guests, YouTube, Google, mainstream media, society, or civilization at large, or anybody. Viewer discretion is advised.